Good evening, and welcome to AMTV. And now, the complete Now Dance series.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And this time on the Now Review, and for the foreseeable future, if I can get the camera fixed, we are going to be looking at the Now Dance series. Now Dance is probably one of the biggest spin-offs that Now's ever had. Not so much in recent years, but certainly back in the origins of Now and throughout the 80s and 90s and 2000s, it was probably Now's biggest sub-genre. Now, I've already covered some of the early Now dances, specifically from this one, from 1985 up until 1991, in a previous collection video, but I thought since we're here and I've got a lot of time and you guys are wanting Now reviews, I thought we'd take a trip through the Now Dance series through this show. I now own most of the albums in one form or another, whether that's vinyl like this or on CD, so we're going to go through them for you. So we're going to start with this one, Now Dance, which was released in 1985. It says extended dance versions of 20 smash hits, and they are all listed on the front cover here, which is quite cool. And the bottom there says 2 hours of wicked mixes to keep you moving all night long. Ironic then that they chose these for pictures of a woman sort of in bed. She looks either very uncomfortable or she's not having good dreams. She's definitely not dancing. It's just a bit odd. I do like the smatterings of colour you can see around on the front here, but I don't like the fact it's all a grey like background and such. And also these are the 12-inch mixes, so for those who are a bit younger, back in the day when singles were released on 12-inch vinyl, they were often longer than the radio edits. Instead of being 3 minutes, they might be 5, 6, 7 minutes and be all extended. And this album has those 12-inch mixes. And for the track list as such, so you've got Would I Lie to You by Eurythmics, Little Benny and the Masters, Who Comes to Boogie, The Ra Band with Clouds Across the Moon, Lilo Thomas with Settle Down, Stephen Tintin Duffy with Kiss Me, Loose Ends with Hanging on a String, War with Groovin', The Cool Notes and Spend the Night, Curtis Hairston and I Want Your Lovin', Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers, Bustin' Loose, and on the other side you got Philip Bailey and Phil Collins, Easy Lover, Aura with Like I Like It, The Power Station with Some Like It Hot, Ashford and Simpson with Solid, Phyllis Nelson with Move Closer, Jermaine Jackson with Do What You Do, Eddie and the Soul Band with the theme from Shaft, T.C. Curtis with You Should Have Known Better, Belouise Sum with Imagination, and DeBarge with Rhythm of the Night. And no, it's not that Rhythm of the Night you're thinking of by the artist who I can't say the name of, otherwise I get demonetized. But anyway, here's the actual back of it, and there is your track list as such. It's funny because how they're arranged on here isn't how they're arranged on here, so it's actually quite annoying. But there is side 1 for you. There is side 2. Here is side 3. And here is side 4. And again, this woman who is in some very uncomfortable sleeping poses. What's she doing here? I'm not sure what she's doing on all of these, to be honest. I do like the logo there. You've got the traditional red, blue and green, but also the dance thing there. That's quite nice. That's t-shirt worthy. Now we're going to open this up. Let's see if I can get it on the stand. Okay, so there you go. Easy Lover. That's a big, big song. And then you've got the Power Station there. Sorry if this is reflecting or it's a bit hard to read text-wise. Never been quite good at this. There you go, there's side 2. So this came out in 1985, and by then Now didn't have many spin-offs. In fact, this may well been the first one in terms of release, because the Now Christmas album didn't come out until Christmas of 85, so I'm assuming this would have come first. So interesting they've got Do What You Do on here, because, I mean, this is a Now Dance album. When I hear dance, I associate it with, like, high-octane, very fast, well, dance music, and Do What You Do is a romantic ballad. So unless back then they were going for dance in all sense, you know, like slow dance as well, but they're not really clear about that. Rhythm of the Night, DeBarge. So this often gets mixed up with the 90s song called Rhythm of the Night, which is by, well, I can't say the name to be demonetized, but I think you can guess. But this is also a good song by DeBarge, you know. Highly recommend that. Got a bit of wear on the sleeve there. We're scrolling down. So these are the 12-inch mixes, hence why they're longer, and there's only 5 tracks per side on the vinyl record. Now, the theme from Shaft, I'm amazed that's here, because that was quite an old song, so it must have had a re-release. There you go, and that is your full 20 track list with full pictures and colour. And now if you give me a jump cut, I'll show you what one of the discs looks like. So here is an example of the vinyl disc for Now Dance. So obviously side 1. No, not great smatterings of colour. I mean, yes, it's got like that blue hue, but black and white art, so wish I could have injected more colour. Mine's a bit scuffed, but it plays really well. Remember, always check for scratches and dust. Just make sure it's in a condition where you think it can be played. Okay, well, what else is there to say about this album? How can you get it? Well, I got mine secondhand. I think I got mine from eBay for about £7 or £8 or something around that figure. This album is actually quite common. I'm guessing at the time it sold really well. It was very popular. So to find a secondhand copy of the original Now Dance from 1985 isn't really that difficult. In terms of the recommendations, I mean, so you've got 20 tracks. Not all of them are high-octane dance songs. As I said, the Do What You Do song by Jermaine Jackson is essentially a ballad. So if you've got to go into this knowing that this is before the era where all dance was considered high-octane thumping stuff, this has some slow stuff as well. And obviously if you like 80s music, it's a go-to, but you've got to know you like the 12-inch mixes. They're often longer, sometimes they change things up. So really do your research before you pick this one up. And as I said before, as this is a vinyl record, make sure you're checking for scratches, for anything that might damage your listening experience. I believe this was also released on cassette at the time, so you can probably find a double cassette of that. I'm not sure off the top of my head whether this was released on CD. This was 1985, so CDs were sort of just about coming in, so you might have to look into that one a little bit further. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another episode of the Now Review. And this time we're continuing our journey through the world of Now Dance, taking a look at the second ever release, which followed firmly off the heels of the first one, which came out in 1985. For today we're going to be looking at Now Dance 86. So as we normally do, let's take a look at the cover. Now this one is a really bright red, which I think is a massive improvement from the first Now Dance, which was a predominant grey. This is a bold colour, it's striking, it catches your eye. Still on the cover though, I don't know what's going on here with the different characters, like sort of weird men. They sort of appeared like haphazardly through the Nows, but they're sort of all angular and triangular. It's a bit odd. You've got the Now Dance logo here, which I think is great. The whole background of the yellow triangle, the multicoloured shapes that inhabit the word dance and stuff. It's just a really strong logo, very synonymous with the Now Dance brand at the time. And the top there says 20 Smash Dance Hits of the Year. Well, we'll be the judge of that, I think. These are also the 12-inch mixes. If you didn't see the last video, which I highly recommend you check out. So back in the day, when singles were released, they were either released on 7-inch vinyl, so, you know, smaller vinyl, that was usually just the radio edit. But the 12-inch release would often have, you know, extended mixes, remixes, dance mixes, and that's what these are. So you've got your 20 tracks which are listed on the front. Chain Reaction's a big song. We Don't Have To. They clearly can't fit the whole title on it, so we don't have to take our clothes off by Jermaine Stewart. Don't Leave Me This Way by the Communards. Can't Wait Another Minute by 5 Star. Midnight Star with Midas Touch or Midas Touch. Gwen Guthrie, Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent. Amazing song. Harley, Jackmaster Funk, Love Can't Turn Around. That is an equally brilliant tune. Timex Social Club with Rumours. Joy Sims, All in All. Cashflow, Mine or Mine. Aretha Franklin with Who's Zooming Who. Nice to see area. Tavares with Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel. Paul Hardcastle with Don't Waste My Time. Jackie Graham with Breaking Away. Grace Jones with Pull Up to the Bumper, which I swear came out a few years earlier. Sunita with So Macho, debatable song. Bronski Beat with Hit That Perfect Beat. MC Micah and DJ Sven with Holiday Rap. Phil Ferron with I Can Prove It. And Boris Gardner with I Wanna Wake Up With You. So that is your track list. Already some pretty identifiable songs on there for those who are familiar with the era. So if you give me a jump cut, we'll take a look at the back. So there is the back of the record, which has the track list, and often the track list is a bit muddled, but this time it's actually all correct. And down there it says over 2 hours of smash dance hits. They really prided themselves back then, because of course this is a double album, so you're going to have more listening time overall. And we'll just look at the track list again. What's interesting they started doing is they give you the total run time for each side, almost like they have to prove how long each of these were. So side 1 will cost you nearly 33 minutes. Side 2 will be 33 minutes and 4 seconds of your time. Side 3 is 32 minutes and 48 seconds. And side 4 is 32 minutes and 6 seconds, which I think is actually quite a useful thing to put on releases. I'm not saying they should do it for the numbered series, but definitely for dance, because sometimes the mixes can go on forever. Although, in an ideal world, I would have preferred the actual times of the tracks on here, but I'm not complaining. I mean, what can I say about the track list initially? Most of side 1 is an absolute banger, although I am happy they've got Love Can't Turn Around on side 2. That was a big breakout sort of rap hit back in the day for 1986, and it's a really great song. Check out the live version they did on Top of the Pops. You got these quirky characters again, and as you can see, they was maybe debating numbering them because the code for this, but it actually does say NOD2. There you go, Now Dance 2, if you like. So maybe they were going to number these instead of putting them by years, who knows. But again, if you allow me one more jump cut, we will take a look inside. Now here you go, here's the inside of the record. Now, like all the Now releases, you have full colour pictures of all the artists and a little bit about them. The camera might not be able to pick up all the individual text, but we will zoom in and see what we can see. So of course you got people like Diana Ross, and you got 5 Star there, Gwen Guthrie. That's an amazing song, by the way. If you haven't heard Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent. Down here, there you go, Love Can't Turn Around's there. This is really nice, because think back in the day, there was no internet, and unless you were watching things like Top of the Pops, then you weren't really going to get information about the artist unless you bought their album. And back in the day, albums weren't exactly the cheapest thing in the world. Even if you were going for the cheaper options on, you know, cassette and stuff, you were still paying pennies, especially if you were a kid and using your pocket money. So that's all your artists there. Now look, it also says it's available. The first Now Dance gets a shout out. It's also available. And also available is Now 7. This did come out in 1986. And I believe if I've got my years right, Now 7 did come out in 1986, as did Now 8. So this was released somewhere between the releases of Now 7 and Now 8 in 1986. Probably in the summer, because a lot of those songs on there were massive summer hits. The prime example, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off by Jermaine Stewart, was a big summer hit in 1986, hence why you collate all these tracks together, so you're playing them at summer parties or house parties, things like that. So that's the album in a nutshell. Now, where can you pick up Now Dance 86? Well, I remember where I got this one quite specifically. I was on tour at the time doing a show around schools in 2017, and wherever we went, I tried to hit the charity shop. So I walked into an Oxfam, and sure enough, in the record section, there this was. It cost me a very, very expensive £1.99. So they are out there. If you don't want to hit the charity shops, your best bet is sites like eBay or Discogs. And you should pay anything, you know, ideally from around a couple of quid. But I'd say I'd pay no more than £10 for Now Dance 86. And I'd only pay £10 if it was in like mint condition, you know, never touched, never played. But should you get it? Well, if you're a fan of the songs that are on here, like some of those big summer songs that I mentioned, then absolutely. A lot of them, this was before sort of remixes came into play, which I think as we see when we get into the Now Dances of the late 90s, early 2000s, that was more prominent. But this is just the bass tracks that you hear on the radio, just at a longer runtime. And if you're a fan of these songs, then I definitely recommend it. It's a fab album. I prefer this one definitely to Now Dance 85, the first one. Purely for songs like Love Can't Turn Around and Don't Leave Me This Way, We Don't Have To, Chain Reaction, Who's Zooming Who. There's just so many like better songs on here in my opinion, but of course, with all music, it's all subjective. But that in a nutshell is Now Dance 86. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another episode of the Now Review. And this time we're continuing our journey through the Now Dance series. We've had Now Dance 1985, Now Dance 1986, and no, I'm not missing 87 and 88. The next release was in fact Now Dance 89. It's not really known why Now didn't release a Now Dance for 1987 or 1988, because there's some great contenders for dance music in both of those years, but for whatever reason they took a break and waited a few more years before this release. And 89 was really when sort of, you could argue, like acid house, Italia house music in general, more dance orientated music was coming into the mainstream, so maybe that's why they decided to make the album again. But let's take a look at the cover. You've got the classic Now logo, the red, blue and green symbols there, which is very iconic. The dance and the 89, you know, it's a bit generic. The 89's bumping up the C, not sure why, could have been any of those words, but it's a very interesting design. The background as well, as you can probably see, is sort of a mishmash of various colours. All in all, is it a bad cover? Not really, but it could be a little bit more interesting, it could argue. And also on the side there of the D letter, you have the 12-inch mixes. So again, for anyone who doesn't know, back in the day when singles were released on 12-inch, you didn't just get the 3-minute radio edit, you got an extended mix. So it could have been 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and it could have been a remix and such like. So you've got 20 smash dance hits, and this is the first time in Now Dance that they didn't decide to put the whole track list on the front cover. as they did with the others. So if I just zoom in there, we'll see what kind of artists to expect today. So you're going to be expecting artists like Bobby Brown, Nina Cherry, Inner City, Soul to Soul, Fine Young Cannibals, Yaz, Beatmasters, Capella, Paula Abdul, and many more. A lot of names are very recognisable there. A lot of names were starting to come into their own in 1989. So if you give me a jump cut, we will flick to the back of the record and see just which 20 Smash Dance hits have made it. Okay, so here is the track list, the 20 Smash Dance hits, the 12-inch mixes. And the track list is styled pretty much how Now track lists were styled, same font and everything. So you've got My Prerogative by Bobby Brown, who really came into his own this year, especially with his debut album, and this song was huge. Buffalo Stance, Nina Cherry, still gets played today. Ain't Nobody Better by Inner City. I do prefer the song Good Life, which, that might be on the same album, I'm not sure, but they're a good group. Keep On Moving, Soul to Soul, their biggest hit was probably Back to Life. Joy and Pain by Maze, I'm not so much familiar with them, don't remember that song. Funky Cold Medina by Tonlock, don't remember that one. Got to Keep On by the Cookie Crew. Who's in the House, the hip house anthem, the Beatmasters with Merlin. I can't remember how it is, but I've got a feeling it's sort of going to be a very tongue-in-cheek early house song. It's Time to Get Funky, D-Mob featuring LRS, and Turn Up the Bass by Tyree featuring Cool Rocksteady. Okay, that's a decent thing for the first record, so let's move on over to record 2, side 1. She Drives Me Crazy by the Fine Young Cannibals. That's a great song. You often find that popping up on like best of the 80s compilations. Interesting, it's not a remix. None of these have indicated that they're remixes. They're just the 12-inch versions. You've got Straight Up by Paula Abdul. Where Has All the Love Gone by Yaz. Her most iconic hit, of course, was The Only Way Is Up. Got to Get You Back by Kim Mazel. And Working Overtime by Diana Ross. Nice to have an artist like her on here. Record 2, side 2. You've got Heliom Halib by Capella. You've got People Hold On, Cold Cut featuring Lisa Stansfield. Yes, People Hold On is a great song. Nice to see Lisa Stansfield as well, because around this time her album Affection was going to come out, and that was a big hit, big hit. You have Musical Freedom, Free at Last by Paul Simpson featuring a diva, One Man by Chanel, and the final track being Just Keep Rockin' by Double Trouble and the Rebel MC. So, for me at least, you know, I'd say a good half of these tracks I do recognise, a good half of them I don't. I'd say this is when Now Dance started to get less away from necessarily the mainstream and started going for some more deeper cuts in the dance house genre, which is good because Now Dance 85 and 86 you could argue were very much mainstream pop chart dance hits, whereas now we're starting to explore the genre of dance itself, and that trend would only continue as it went into the 90s. Now, if you allow me a jump cut, well actually before we do that, you've got all the information on here. Nice to see the original Now Music logo featured down there. And this is definitely the third release. We haven't missed any because the barcode there says NOD3, so Now Dance 3. So yeah, who knows why they missed 87 and 88. But if you give me one swift jump cut, let's have a look on the inside. Okay, so here is your inner gatefold. A lot of reds and green colours going around here, but I actually like the colour scheme better when it's meshed like that. So we're going to pan on over to record 1, side 1. And as you can see, you've got the artists here and a little bit of information about them as well. This is pretty common on all the Now albums of the day, pretty much. Nice to see the artists and learn about where these songs placed in the charts. We'll crank it on over to side 2 and work backwards. So yeah, this album, I mean, I'll talk more about whether it's for you or not a bit later, but it's a very mixed one, this. It doesn't feel as concrete of a buy as, say, the first 2 releases were, at least not for me. There's Diana Ross, and panning over to the last one. And then we'll pan up. There's your artist. Now, funnily enough, unlike Now Dance 86, which advertised the first Now Dance release and also advertised the current numbered Now at the time, there is no such advertising for this one here. Now, this came out in 1989, and if it came out in the summer like the last release, this is sort of around the time of Now 15, shall we say, and it could have advertised the other 2 on here as well. I don't know why they do, but it's nice to see that they haven't skimped out on detail. The artwork here is quite trippy, but also really cool. And it's nice to have information about the artists as well. And here, dear viewer, is what the disc looks like. So you've got a white label predominantly this time with red text. Shame again, it's just 2 colours. I wish it would have been more colour, but alas. My disc is a little dusty, but plays beautifully. As always with vinyl, make sure there's no deep scratches. Make sure it's in a playable condition before you buy. So, recommendation time. Should you pick up Now Dance 89? Well, few factors as always. If you like music from that era, the very late 80s, then that's a consideration. But think this time if you like not just the pop stuff, so not just your Bobby Brown or your Fine Young Cannibals, think about the deeper dance cuts of the the era when house was starting to come in, all that sort of stuff. If you like that late 80s, early 90s sounding stuff, then Now Dance 89 is definitely a good pickup, because you're not only getting those songs, you're essentially getting the extended dance remixes. You don't have to go out and buy the singles. However, if you don't like late 80s music, if you don't like dance music, it's a stay away. If you just like, I'd say, mainstream like pop hits that are very danceable, maybe stick with the first two releases we looked at, so Now Dance 85 and 86, because as I said, I believe this is where they started to go more into the dance genre route, which I think is the better option, because it is called Now Dance. We've got the main numbered series for the main pop hits, so it only makes sense that you have an album like this to give the dance stuff its own home. You can find it on secondhand places like eBay. I actually got mine from a charity shop, I think, for about £3. I'd say you don't want to pay any more than £10 for this if it's in like pristine condition, but usually it should only cost you a couple of quid if you're lucky. But as always, check the discs, make sure there's no deep scratches, and you're buying from a trusted seller. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back after long last to another instalment of the Now Review. I'm sorry this next instalment in the Now Dance series has taken so long, but we've had hits reviews, we've had the new Now 105, we've had various things going on, but now we are back to the Now Dance series, and it's quite fitting in a way that after such a long time when we come back to this, we've got a triple review. So you had Now Dance 85, the first release, you had Now Dance 86, you had Now Dance 89 for some reason after taking a 2-year break, but in 1990 they followed up with not one, not two, but 3 Now Dance albums throughout the entire year. So 1990 must have been a pretty good year for dance according to Now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through each of these individually, then we'll do like a summary, see which ones I recommend, what I don't recommend, etc. So let's get into it with the first release, Now Dance 901. So here it is, Now Dance 901, that's what I'm going to refer it to as anyway. So you've got the all familiar Now logo, which I think was still being used at this point. The last to use that was Now 17, which was released in 1990, in all fairness. So you've got the red, blue and green, you've got a funky dance looking logo, 901. 20 smash dance hits, the 12-inch mixes. So who has this got featuring? You have got Technotronic, FPI Project, D-Mob, Mantronics, Soul to Soul, the 49ers, De La Soul, Inner City, and many more. So some very recognisable names there, and some names that also appeared on Now 17 off the top of my head. In terms of the cover, I don't like the fact that most of the background is like this pale yellow. It's, I don't know, it just seems a bit bland. I mean, yes, it does help the title, but the whole front cover sort of looks like a, you know, like a school drawing. It's sort of like a young child drew it up, which, you know, works, but you'd recognise it, but I don't know, just a bit bland. But anyway, we're going to flip this on over. We'll put that there, and now we're going to look at the all-important track list. So 20 tracks, 5 tracks to a side. So on record 1, side 1, you have Get Up, Before the Night Is Over, Technotronic feat Your Kid K, that's a great song. Going Back to My Roots, FPI Project feat Sharon D. Clark. Put Your Hands Together, D-Mob featuring Enough Juice. Got to Have Your Love, Mantronics feat Wondrous. I thought it was going to be their cover of... Oh no, it was Jamtronics who did Another Day in Paradise. Dub Be Good To Me by Beats International feat Lindy. One of the biggest hits of 1990 and still a big hit today that gets played. Cracking song. Record 1, side 2, Get a Life by Soul to Soul, Touch Me by the 49ers, You Make Me Feel Mighty Real by Jimmy Somerville. I personally prefer the Read My Lips song he did off that album, but you know, whatever. In Private by Dusty Springfield, great song. I didn't realise that was on here. I've owned this for a few years. In Private, that was off her album Reputation, produced by the Pet Shop Boys. Sit and Wait by Sydney Youngblood, so that's record 1. In Private on Now Dance, fancy that, eh? Dusty Springfield on a Now Dance album. Record 2, side 1, you got The Magic Number by De La Soul, Welcome by Gino Latino, I Called You by Lil Louis and the World. From what I remember, that's a very strange song. Destiny by Elektra, and Love on Love by the Easy Posse feat Dr. Mouthquake. Again, I really don't understand why they didn't put Everything Starts with an E on this one, because that was, well, a big song from Easy Posse, a great song actually. Record 2, side 2, What You Gonna Do With My Lovin' by Inner City, Was That All It Was by Kim Mazel, Inner City Mama by Nina Cherry, who was one of the emerging artists around that time, Encore by Tongue in Cheek, and Higher Than Heaven by Ace of Chance. So there you go, there are your 20 tracks. Quite an eclectic mix really, but a lot of good songs on here, definitely. I mean, Dub Be Good To Me, In Private, Get Up Before the Night Is Over. There's, yeah, some great dance tracks, but thankfully, this is a gatefold release. So let's open her up. There we go. So I'm just going to like briefly skim through all of these. As usual, for anyone who doesn't know, the Now albums always took pride in being able to show off the artists that they had in these things and also a bit about each song, so you'd have the information there. I know you won't be able to read it, but just think back in 1990, you didn't have internet, you didn't have many means to access this unless you own the actual album. So here you get to learn a bit about the artist, a bit about the single itself. Scanning. And just going back to record 1, side 2, I love how the picture they use, see there, that's the Pet Shop Boys with what looks like a very photoshopped image of Dusty Springfield in. Surely they must have been able to get an image of the three of them. Maybe not from the time, but who knows. So that is your inside. I like the fact each number is a different colour. You got the red, orangey, yellow, red and green. I don't know, it's just a nice touch. But the pale yellow background, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. But enough about pale yellow backgrounds. Now I'm going to quickly show you what one of the discs looks like. So here is what one of your discs looks like. Just a yellow thing there. Is it different colour? Yes, so green, so I imagine the other is sort of maybe red and blue. This one's a little scuffed, a little dusty, but it still plays like an absolute dream. So remember, always check the condition of your vinyl before you buy. Quick thing to note as well, the catalogue number for this is NOD4, or Now Dance 4, as this was the 4th release, confirming that. So, Now Dance 901. I mean, yeah, to kick off 1990, this is a great album. There's a lot of great dance songs on here, and I think a few dance songs that maybe weren't as mainstream in the main charts, so you actually get a little bit more if you want to expand your horizons, I suppose, is one way to put it. But yeah, I have actually really enjoyed listening to this album. I think it's a really great album indeed. So without further ado, we shall now move on to the next release from 1990. And that release, of course, is Now Dance 902, released later on in 1990. I'm guessing more around the summertime, because you've got the sunflowers. Now this cover's actually really, like, I think of the era and very trippy. Look at all the 902s in the background, that's quite cool. You've still got the 3-colour logo, so the red, blue and green there. The font's very basic, but I guess in 1990 they didn't have many options, although the font down here of the featured artist is the same font they've been using on the mainline Nows for ages now. You've still got the 12-inch mixes subtitles, so that was still very much in use. So what featured artists do we have on here? So you've got The Adventures of Stevie V, Adamski, Soul to Soul again, Maxi Priest, Yaz, Betty Boo, Bobby Brown, Chad Jackson and many more. So I think from the returning one there, Soul to Soul, you can see how some artists really made their name in the dance scene around this time at the beginning of the 1990s. So let's flip it on round and have a look at the track list. I like how each thing here is different colours for record 1, whatever. I don't know. Nice touch. I like the different colours. So, Dirty Cash by The Adventures of Stevie V. Here, The Drummer, Get Wicked by Chad Jackson. Freestyle Megamix by Bobby Brown, which I think is basically a mix of all his hits from the Don't Be Cruel album, I think. You Can't Touch This by MC Hammer, one of the biggest songs of the 1990, not just dance, just in general. I'm surprised that wasn't track 1. Won't Talk About It by Beats International, so record 1, side 2. Yeah, First Time Ever, Joanna Law. A Dream's a Dream by Soul to Soul. Love Don't Live Here Anymore by Double Trouble. Thinking of You by Maureen Walsh. And Close to You by Maxi Priest. So we're going to head on over now to record 2, side 1. So you've got World in Motion by England New Order. For anyone who doesn't know, that was sort of the official England theme song for the Italia 90 World Cup for football. I think it reached number 1 in the charts. We didn't reach number 1 in the World Cup. The less said about that, the better. Doing the Do by Betty Boo, Venus by Don Pablo's Animals, Wild Woman Do by Natalie Cole, and Take Your Time by Mantronics. Oh, they're back again. Feet Wondrous once again. So record 2, side 2. You've got NRG by Adamski. I'm surprised it's not the song Killer with Seal. Treat Me Good by Yaz, The Master Plan, Diana Brown and Barry K. Sharp, Joy and Heartbreak, Movement 98, feat. Carol Thompson, and Snappiness by BBG. So I know for me personally, there's a lot less that I recognise initially on that track list, although some of you might be like, oh, how come you don't know this and that? You know, depending on your knowledge of dance and that era of 1990, you might know more than other people. And just before we open this up, the catalogue number you will see is NOD5, confirming that this is the 5th release in Now Dance. I still find it so odd. They never released an album for 1987 or 88, but they did 3 for 1990. Maybe they were making up for lost time, who knows. But let's open this up anyway. Let's see what we've got in here. So, as you can see, it's pretty similar to Now Dance 901. You've just got the artist there and a bit of information about them. And I honestly can't stress how important this would have been to buyers back in the day, when the only way otherwise, I guess, you would have found out about artists is if you read them in magazines, you picked up the booklets of their albums, or just saw them on TV. So something like this was a real, help to people who wanted to learn more about artists. So yeah, like the sunflowers, I love the navy blue background. I might be a bit biased as navy blue is a favourite colour of mine, but still, this I think looks way more appealing than Now Dance 901 did. And with that said, let's get out one of the discs. So here you go, here's a disc for Now Dance 902. Again, this one's got a few scuffs, few hairlines on it, but from when I've played it, it plays really, really well, so I'm not worried at all. You can, of course, buy vinyl cleaning kits, should you wish to do that, but make sure you buy them from a professional and it's not just any old substance you're using. But yeah, those are the discs. So that's Now Dance 902, and I'll be honest, I think without listening to this again and seeing if I have a different opinion, tracklist-wise, I think I still am more of a fan of Now Dance 901. I think that had a better selection, but some of you guys might prefer Now Dance 902, but let's not forget we have one more release to look at today. This is going to be a bumper video for sure, so let's now move on to the third and final release from 1990. So here it is, the final release of the year, Now Dance 903, or 90 and 3. I don't know why they number them like this. Why couldn't they just call it Now Dance 90 Volume 3? It's just, I don't know, I'm being cynical now. This cover is whack. I definitely prefer the Now Dance 902 cover. Like, yes, if you look in the background, you've got like the purple and the squiggly lines, which are oh so 90s, but you've still technically got the 3-color logo, although it's less, familiar. It's not in the 3 circles, so maybe Now 18 had come out by this point and changed it all. I just don't like it. It's too big, it's too cluttered, and I just don't, it's not appealing to my eyes anyway. So who have we got featuring on this one in this strong font down here? Technotronic's back, and is Betty Boo, Bassomatic, Money Love, Nina Cherry, Blue Pearl, Loose Ends, Innocence, plus many more. Again, so some some returning names this year, so it really shows you who was popping off in 1990. It's still the 12-inch mixes at the very top there, if you can see. This was released on, well, I'll talk more about that at the end, I guess, with all the others. So, first thing, before we go into the track list, as you can see up there, NOD6, the 6th release. Now, this is much nicer because the background, I don't know, the background's quite nice. It's that very 90s style, but I wish we could see more of it on the front. That is a much nicer logo. That's much more concise, I think. I like how the O's are record as well. Record 1, side 1. So you've got a mega mix by Technotronic, nice way to start. Where Are You Baby by Betty Boo. I Can't Stand It by 24/7. That Man, He's All Mine by Inner City. She Ain't Worth It by Glenn Medeiros. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Record 1, side 2 is Fascinating Rhythm by Bassomatic. What Time Is Love, the KLF feat The Children of the Revolution. That's a great song. Body Language, The Adventures of Stevie V. It's a Shame, My Sister by Money Love feat True Image. And I've Got You Under My Skin by Nina Cherry. Great version of that by her. Record 2, side 1, Naked in the Rain by Blue Pearl. LFO by LFO. Mother Universe by The Soup Dragons. Gravy Train by The Farm. You're Walking by Electribe 101. Record 2, side 2, you've got Don't Be a Fool by Loose Ends. Let's Push It by Innocence. Get Yourself Together by The Young Disciples. Burundi Blues by Beats International. And Hardcore Uproar by Together. So, again, thinking about that, so say Beats International, they've appeared at least once on each of these 3 albums from 1990. So I guess that helps show how powerful they were in the scene at the time. Same with Nina Cherry, I think she was on 2 out of 3 of these. Just, you've noticed some names come up constantly, but, that's what you get when you release 3 albums about dance in one year. I get it for the numbered series, looking at the pop charts, but did we need 3 dance albums in one year? It's debatable. But nevertheless, let us continue with looking inside this gatefold here, what we're going to get in this one. So pop that there. Alright, see, I'd love that background. Why can't we see more of it on the front? That's what I want to know. It's the same sort of thing, really, information about each artist on the inside here. Very useful stuff, especially if you wanted to, I don't know, pick some of this up in the shops or from your local vinyl dealer or cassette dealer, CD dealer. But before we talk about the formats of these, let's have one final look at one of these discs. Okay, so here is a disc for Now Dance 903. Got a yellow background, very simple, and it's yellow there, so they're not even changing the colours anymore. Again, a few scuffs, but plays brilliantly. That's the disc. So that's Now Dance 903, and I must admit, I recognise even less on here than the first two, but again, that's just down to your personal preference, your taste in dance music, your knowledge of the era. There's so many factors that come into it. But what I'll do now, let's get the other two back in the frame, and I'll talk about whether it's all worth it. So in conclusion, what is there to say about these three albums? Well, you could argue it gives you a pretty conclusive view of dance music, or at least more mainstream dance music, in the year 1990. I'm not sure whether music historians would cite 1990 as the best year for dance music ever, but I guess now certainly thought there was merit to it, or maybe the dance scene was just popping off at the time. You've got to remember, end of the 80s, start of the 90s, you had all sorts of things happening. Acid house was in full swing, house music in general was coming in and becoming really popular, so in a way, if you think about it, maybe it made sense for them to release 3 volumes. But are they all worth it? Well, obviously getting the standard thing out the way, if you don't like 90s music, or specifically 90s dance music, then there is no point to you picking up these albums. You will not enjoy them. However, if you enjoy 90s music, if you grew up with it, and if you enjoy the dance scene, I would recommend all 3 of these albums, not just because each of them has a song that is instantly recognizable, but because there are tracks on there that you either is probably buried deep within your brain, or stuff you've never heard of. And it's all exciting to hear that for the first time. And these, at the minute anyway, are reasonably cheap. I've owned these for a few years now. I believe I got each of these off eBay for between £5 and £10 each. I can't remember the specific prices of each one, and if you check out my video from years ago on the Now Dance series on vinyl, then I might have elaborated on it there. But they're relatively cheap to collect these releases from 1990. However, if vinyl isn't your thing, you can also get all 3 of these on a double cassette tape release, or even a CD release, whatever floats your boat. I personally prefer to collect things on vinyl, hence why I have the 3 of them here. But yeah, if you like dance music, especially 1990 dance music, all 3 of these get a high recommendation from me. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another episode of the Now Review. And for this instalment, we're continuing our Now Dance journey as we head to the year 1991 to take a look at this release. I present to you Now Dance 91. So let's take a look at this cover. You've got 2 main colours, which is the sort of bluey green, it's mainly blue I'd say, and then you've got the yellow of the 91, which does look quite nice. And you've got this title, which is very 90s in terms of the font, very simplistic. This whole cover's very simplistic, I think, not very extravagant. The extravagantness of the 80s are gone, and the simpleness of the 90s have moved in. 20 blissful grooves, it says. And we no longer have the 12-inch mixers either, which was a staple on the covers up until this point. And we are featuring PM Dawn, Incognito feat Jocelyn Brown, Young Disciples, Zoe, The Prodigy, Utah Saints, Heavy D and the Boys, the KLF, plus many more. So let's put it to the test. The spine, it's kind of hard to read the title, but it is there. Right, let's have a look at what is on this album. So for side 1, you have PM Dawn with Set Adrift on Memory Bliss, Zoe with Sunshine on a Rainy Day, Incognito feat Jocelyn Brown with Always There, Kathy Dennis, Touch Me, All Night Long, Heavy D and the Boys with Now That We Found Love, Right Said Fred with I'm Too Sexy, Salt and Pepper with Do You Want Me, De La Soul with a roller skating jam named Saturdays, Latour with People Are Still Having Sex, and Deborah with Dream About You. So that's side 1. So on side 2 we have The Prodigy with Charlie, Utah Saints with What Can You Do For Me, the KLF with Last Train to Trans Central, live from the Lost Continent, Rosala with Everybody's Free to Feel Good, Frankie Knuckles with The Whistle Song, Easy Posse featuring Tara Newley with Breathing Is Easy, Young Disciples with Apparently Nothing, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince Summertime, Quartz introducing Dina Carroll with It's Too Late, and Omar with There's Nothing Like This. So those are the 20 tracks you have on the album, and I must say it's quite a nice selection. And you might have noticed as well that this is not a double disc release. This is in fact just 1 vinyl disc. All the other releases up until this point had been 2 vinyl discs. So it's interesting that they went down to 1. Same amount of tracks, mind you, 20 songs still, but instead of splitting it 5 songs per side over 2 discs, they've gone for 10 songs per side over 1 disc. Doesn't really make that much of a difference to you as the consumer, but it's an interesting tidbit. And this is the 7th release because, as you will see, it does in fact say NOD7, or Now Dance 7. Right, so we've looked at the track list, which I might talk about more in depth later, but let's show you what the disc looks like. So here is the disc. You've got this, which is the B side, I believe, which is like the red hue. I like the way the 91's been framed, and it's also red on this side. Again, I quite like that as disc art, actually. I think that's really nice. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, but it's not 2 discs, that means it's not going to be a gatefold, I'm not going to get the information. Well, fear not, because the information is on the sleeve that the vinyl disc is housed in. So you still actually get the pictures of all the artists here. This is side 1, and you actually still get the information, which you could argue is in slightly bigger text as well. And again, as I always say, this would have been amazing back in the day with no internet, no easy way to learn about this. It's just vital to have things like this so you know what sort of tracks you're listening to and what albums they come from. Let's flip over to side 2. You get the artists on that side. I'm sure some of you will recognise these more than others. Of course, there's Will Smith as the Fresh Prince. This was the height of his Bel Air days, of course, or when Bel Air had just started, maybe. It's funny that the Fresh Prince theme never made it to a Now Dance album, but what we get here is Summertime, so let's use that as an example. A shimmering heatwave of good times, block parties, humid love, hot dogs and hospitality. It gave them their first big British hit, and it made number 8 in August of 1991, so there you go. And that is all the information on there. So nice to see, even though we went down to a single disc release, they still remembered to give us what we wanted. So what else is there to say? Well, again, the track list is quite good for 91. There's some really big recognisable hits on here. Sunshine on a Rainy Day, for example, or I'm Too Sexy. It may be meme now, but again, it's very popular. Everybody's Free to Feel Good, big song as well. Summertime, of course. There's a lot of memorable songs on here, as well as some stuff that I'd argue you might not have heard in a while or might not even remember. So it's a nice selection of 20 songs. Blissful grooves, I mean, that might imply relaxing. I mean, it's not relaxing in the sense that it makes you feel calm necessarily, or it might do, but it makes you get in the mood for dancing. But where can you find this? Well, as you get into the 90s, vinyl became less and less common on the market. So I was actually surprised I found this quite easily. I got mine off eBay for about £6 or £7, which is, I think, a pretty good deal. The disc was in really good nick, as you saw. And if you look on eBay, you'll probably find it for around that price. I wouldn't pay any more than £10 for this. Like, seriously, if you're paying more than £10 for this, you're being ripped off. That's just a statement. The nows on vinyl, on dance anyway, would get rarer and rarer as they come. There's a few more releases on vinyl. I don't have all of them. I have some of them on CD. So, actually, I've only got one more release on vinyl, and it's not the next one, sadly. But I will review the next one on a CD for you. But should you get Now Dance 91? Well, if you enjoy dance music and you like what they were putting out in 1991, then yeah, absolutely go for it. You've got 20 great selections on here, some really popular stuff, some lesser known stuff, some stuff that might jog your memory. If you don't like dance music, you don't like 90s music, stay away. And it isn't vinyl, you can just get it on cassette as well, and you can also get it on CD. Hi there guys, it's Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And on this occasion we are continuing our journey through the Now Dance series by taking a look at the release from 1992, aptly named of course, Now Dance 92. Now as you can see, I have the album on vinyl here, but I also have the album on CD, and I'm going to be talking about both versions, and we'll go through that as we progress. I haven't got it on cassette unfortunately, but vinyl and CD's enough. So first and foremost, let's have a look at this cover. As you can see, the main theme is red. Nice bright red. I do like the 92 font actually, like the thin purple font they've used here. I think that's quite stylish. Shame it's sort of been pushed to the back behind the words Now and Dance, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. The font for Dance, I'm not really digging. I don't know, it just feels a bit tacky. The Now logo, yeah, it's alright. I kind of wish it had all just been one colour. As you can see, there's like brown spats and silver spats there. Kind of wish it had all just been yellow, but again, I'm not a designer. And as you can see at the top there, it says double album, and I'll explain why it specifically feels it has to say that. But no 12-inch dance mixes here, no 20 blissful grooves, and that sort of stuff. We'll get into the track list in a minute, but at the bottom it gives you a sample of what artists to expect. You should expect Bizarre Inc., Was Not Was, E17, The Shaman, Utah Saints, Soul to Soul, CC Peniston, U2, Rage, and many more. So with that said, let's turn this on over and take a look at the track list. So here is the track list. We have 30 tracks and we'll see what we've got. We've got Shake Your Head, the 12-inch mix by Was Not Was, Baker Street, the extended mix by Undercover, House of Love, the pedigree mix by E17, Ebenezer Good, the Beatmaster Club mix by The Shaman, Something Good, the 12-inch mix by the Utah Saints, Das Boot, techno version by U96, I'm Gonna Get You, the original flavor mix radio edit by Bizarre Inc., then moving on to side 2, you've got Even Better Than the Real Thing, the Perfecto mix by U2, Connected, full length by Stereo MCs, Voulez-Vous, the ABBA-esque version by Erasure, Money Love, the Perfecto mix by Nina Cherry, Pennies from Heaven, Kevin's Tunnel mix by Inner City, Expand Your Mind, Hendrix 7-inch mix by Wag Your Tail, and Joy, the brand new Heavies mix by Soul to Soul. Now on to Disc 2 Side 1 or Side 3, we've got We Gotta Love Thang, the Silky House Thang by CC Peniston, I Love You Smile, the Drizza Bone Club mix by Shanice, Ain't No Man, the Love Mac 12-inch mix by Dina Carroll, Don't Worry About a Thing, the album version by Incognito, Hanging on a String, the Frankie Knuckles radio edit by Loose Ends, Don't Let It Go to Your Head, the 12-inch version by Brand New Heavies, and One Love in My Lifetime, the 7-inch edit by Innocence. Then on side 2 of disc 2, or side 4, we've got Rock Your Baby, the Boogaloo Investigator mix by KWS, Start Me Up, the radio edit by Salt and Pepper, On a Ragga Trip, the original mix by SL2, I Feel Love, the 7-inch mix by Messiah feat. Precious Wilson, So Right, the Pearl edit by K-Class, Back to the Old School edit by Bassheads, Twilight Zone, the 7-inch version by 2 Unlimited, Tetris, the 7-inch mix by Dr. Spin, and Run to You, the Vital Organs mix by Rage. And just so you can tell, this is the 8th release because it says right there, this is Now Dance number 8, the 8th release. So there you go, 30 tracks, which is actually at this point the most tracks featured on a Now Dance album. At this point there'd only been 20 tracks spread across 2 discs, but here you actually get 30 of various lengths. You probably noticed as well when I read those out, a lot of these are, well, I think they all had mixes attached to them, whether it's a 12-inch mix, which is often an extended cut, or the 7-inch mix, which is obviously a shorter radio edit, or just a complete remix by a different artist in general. I think this is the first time that Now Dance specifically did this to all their tracks. Before they just sort of took songs, off the chart and whacked them on an album, whereas here we're starting to actually remix things, we're getting specific dance cuts of things, and I think that shows the progression of the Now Dance brand as a whole. But I'm going to take this out of its sleeve and we're going to open it up. Or at least I would open it up if it was a gatefold. Surprisingly, like Now Dance 91 before it, this is not a gatefold album. I'm quite surprised, especially as it's a double album as well. But I tell you what I will do, I will take out one of the sleeves here, and we will have a look at one of the discs. There you go, Now Dance 92. So you got orange there, that's record 2, side 1 I've pulled out, and it's the same. So all of them will have this orange colour with the white 92 and the black text. So actually, out of the Now Dance series so far, this is probably the most value for money out of the classics from the 80s and 90s. And, well, one reason I'm saying that is because, well, let's look at the CD version. So this is a 1-disc release, this is not 2 discs, and it's got, the same artist that you'd expect. But what you'll notice if you go to the track list is that there is only 20 tracks on here. That's right, the vinyl version actually has 10 more tracks, not just 1 or 2, 10 whole tracks, more than the CD, which I found quite surprising because in the late 80s, early 90s when CD was coming in, companies all the time would say, oh, this album's available on both, but if you get the CD, you can have a few more songs because it could hold about nearly 80 minutes worth of songs. So it's quite interesting that as of 1992, a year where vinyl was, really starting to die out, that they decided to put 10 extra tracks on the vinyl version and not the CD version. That probably explains, though, why some of the tracks on Now Dance 92, the vinyl edition, are 7-inch mixes or like shorter radio edits to try and fit more on each disc. But that's a massive win for vinyl, if you ask me. I can't remember off the top of my head which songs are cut. I know the Inner City one isn't there. And like, for example, there you go, Tetris by Dr. Spin. On the vinyl version, that's the 7-inch version. This might be the normal version. And there's not as many brackets next to things here, like saying, what kind of mixes they are, which leads me to believe a lot of the ones on the vinyl edition are edited in the way that best suits getting more songs on each side. But let's open this up. I'm not going to get the booklet out because there really isn't much to show. That disc is falling out. So there you go, it's a single disc. I actually quite like that design for the disc, nice and colourful and shiny in the way the 90s discs always were. You've got all the tracks on there as well. This is CD Now Dance 8, the 8th release, of course. Yeah, it's just interesting. I can't get over that fact that the CD version, the supposedly superior technology, had 10 less tracks than the vinyl edition. That's, I don't know, it's a bit mad. So with all that in place, what about the selection? Well, going off the vinyl edition, I think the selections are great. This is where 90s dance music was really starting to come into its own. A lot of pop was crossing over into dance. Eurodance was really big at the time, of course. So I think this is one of the most solid Now Dance albums of the entire, series, not just the 1990s. If you really like your 90s dance music, and I'm talking, really like it, then you'll love Now Dance 92. The cover, funnily enough, always gave me an impression this was going to be quite a smooth album, quite a mellow album, but it's anything but, to be honest. If you want more selection, obviously go for the vinyl edition. You will get more songs, but also be aware there'll be different mixes of each songs on there. The vinyl edition is a bit hard to find. I mean, I picked up mine for about £40, which is the cheapest you're probably going to find it for unless you get a really good deal. Before then, I'd seen it for like 50, 60, 70 pounds, so be prepared to pay a little bit more for the vinyl version, but I think, in my opinion, with 10 extra tracks and alternative mixes of things, it's definitely worth it. If you're not too bothered about picking this up on vinyl, you can pick this up on CD as well. The only reason I did was because before I owned the vinyl version, I bought a boatload of Now Dance CDs throughout the years, and I thought, well, for 50p or however much it was, I may as well pick up Now Dance 92. That's an incredibly cheap album to pick up on CD. You can get this on cassette as well. I don't own that per se, and I don't know how much it is, but it is, I'm assuming, readily available. Conclusion, in my opinion, one of the best Now Dance albums of the entire series. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another episode of the Now Review. And today we're continuing our journey through the Now Dance series, taking us to the year 1993. And another year where there was more than one release, 2 releases this time. We're going to be taking a look at Now Dance 93 and Now Dance, the best of 93. So obviously I've just got these on CD, I'll talk more about formats later on in the video, but we will start with this one, the one that is simply titled Now Dance 93. So for this one straight away you've got 20 buzzing beats. Oh my god, this must be so good! Just looking at the cover, I'm liking the like sort of blue, greens and purples. It's a really nice colour scheme. Funnily enough, the red of the word now kind of ruins this one for me. I'm not quite sure why, but it just, I think, takes away from it a little bit. But you've got featuring artists like Ace of Base, Lucci Lou and Michi One, Inner Circle, To Unlimited, Gabrielle and Dina Carroll, and many more, but all prolific artists of the time. This is in a standard CD jewel case. As you can see, there is the spine, Now Dance 93. And just looking at the, does it say, oh yeah, there you go, CD, because it's on CD, NOD9, as this is the 9th release, of course. So who have we got? We've got All That She Wants by Ace of Base, Shout It Out, Radio Edit by Lucci Lou and Michi One, Sweat, A La 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 song, the original version by Inner Circle, Tribal Dance by To Unlimited, Wind It Up, Rewound by The Prodigy, You Got To Know by Capella, Believe in Me, the 7-inch edit by the Utah Saints, Rockin' to the Rhythm by Convert, Ain't No Love, Ain't No Use by Sub Sub, feat Melanie Williams, Informer, radio edit by Snow, that's quite a song, Buddy X, What's Up Mix by Nina Cherry, Dreams by Gabrielle, great song, Express by Dina Carroll, Thinking of You, the Ramp Radio mix by Sister Sledge, When I'm Good and Ready by Sybil, Glam by Lisa B, Good Life, an edit by Inner City, Rushing by Lonely Clark, You're My Everything by the East Side B, and Ditty, the Ben Libram Radio mix by Paperboy. Okay, so you got your 20 tracks there, and let's open this little guy up. There you go. Ooh, right, a teal sort of disc. Okay, that's interesting. Not sure whether I like that. Teal's a very funny colour. Not sure whether I like it or not. But that is the disc. As you've probably noticed, it is just one disc. This is not a double album. And there is all the information again. So yeah, 20 tracks on one disc. Now for the track list itself, I think this is a pretty comprehensive selection of 1993 dance songs of the time. Obviously this isn't everything. This came out partway through the year of 93, so it was only like the first section. Now, Good Life, edit by that must have been re-released or something, because I swear Good Life originally came out in like 1989, 1990. Maybe someone in the comments will be able to tell me why Good Life was back on this one, but Dreams by Gabrielle, again, an iconic song of the 90s. Informer by Snow is just a very odd song at first. You can't really understand a word he's saying, but it's sort of got that cult status. If you don't know what it is, it's that one that sort of goes like, Informer, whatever the hell he's saying, basically. To Unlimited, Tribal Dance. I think this was the same year No Limit came out, but maybe it hadn't come out yet, and All She Wants, Ace of Base were very big at that time as well. So, I mean, I don't have much more to say on, like, the actual content. I mean, it's a good album of 93 dance tracks, and there's 20 songs on here, but I think what really sells 1993 for this series is this one, which we're going to be looking at. Now Dance, the best of 93. So as you can see, this is indeed a fat box style album, so there are 2 discs within here, so you're already getting a boatload more tracks. Now the cover, they're going for this like 90s minimalism, like, you know, red background, big blue text, yellow. I just think it looks a bit bait. It looks very like Microsoft Word art, so to speak. Maybe it was made on Word art at the time, who knows. But yeah, I'm not really a fan. It's just a bit too basic for me. But on here, you have more than 20 tracks. In fact, you've got 38. What the hell, let's do it. So you've got Boom Shake the Room, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Excellent song. I'm So Into You by SWV. Here We Go by Stackabo. All That She Wants by Ace of Base. What Is Love by Hadaway. Mr. Vane by Culture Beat. Love for Love by Robin S. How Can I Love You More remix by M People. The Key The Secret by the Urban Cookie Collective. Independence by Lulu. When I'm Good and Ready by Sybil. Slave to the Vibe by Aftershock. Don't Walk Away by Jade. Thinking of You, the Ramp Radio Mix, Sister Sledge. Dreams by Gabrielle. Tripping on Your Love by Kenny Thomas. Caught in the Middle by Juliet Roberts. I Will Survive. The Phil Kelsey remix by Gloria Gaynor. You Are the Best Thing by D Ream. Just talking about this first disc for a second. Boom Shake the Room, excellent song by Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff there. What Is Love by Hadaway, one of the most iconic Eurodance songs ever, as is Mr. Vane by The Culture Beat. Trust me, you'll know that when you hear it. Lulu's back, if it's the same Lulu I'm thinking of, from the 60s. As you've probably noticed already, some tracks from Now Dance 93 do repeat here, like All That She Wants by Ace of Base, and Dreams by Gabrielle, and the Thinking of You song by Sister Sledge. But this is bound to happen. This is the best of 93, so if they've already released an album chronicling part of it, then some songs are indeed going to repeat. You've also got Gloria Gaynor with a remix of I Will Survive, but I Will Survive has, I think, charted numerous times. It's just that sort of timeless disco song, isn't it? No Limit by Two Unlimited, there it is. You Got to Let the Music by Capella. Move by Moby. Open Your Mind by Usura. Believe in Me by the Utah Saints. Do You See the Light Looking For by Snap. Pressure Us by Sunscream. Forever People by The Shaman. Give It Up by The Good Men. Wind It Up, the Rewound Edit by The Prodigy. Boom Shakalak by Apache Indian. Jump Around Master Mix by House of Pain. Informer by Snow. Shout It Out by Luchi Liu and Michi One. Sweat A La 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 by Inner Circle. Creation by Stereo MCs. Shoop by Salt and Pepper. Ain't No Casanova by Sinclair. And Mr. Wendell by Arrested Development. Again, some repeats. You've got Informer on here again. You've got Shout Out and Sweat, for example. But you've also got No Limit by Two Unlimited, which again is one of the most iconic dance songs of the entire decade, I would argue. Shoot by Salt and Pepper, that's another solid track as well. And if you look on here, CD NOD 10, as this is indeed the 10th release in the Now Dance series. Let's open this up. It's a fat box after all, so you've really got to pry. I don't want that side yet, there we go. So there's this one. Now I like that design, that's quite wavy for a disc, that sort of like faded out purple and red sort of style. I actually quite dig that, I'm quite surprised. And opening that, the disc has fallen out because I think the case is broke, but there you go. There's CD 2. I like that. I'm not sure whether this originally came with a booklet. If it did, my copy didn't have it, which is a shame. I think this is a pretty solid album. You're getting 38 tracks, some great tracks from 1993 in the world of dance. Yes, some repeats from Now Dance 93, but also a lot of stuff that isn't on there. I guess this is chronicling the whole year. But now, looking at both albums, where can you get them, what format, and which one is worth it? Now, first of all, in terms of availability, as you can see, these are both on CD. You can also get both of these for cassette. And in terms of vinyl, you got to remember, in 1993, vinyl was sort of dying out originally then. From what I can gather, Now Dance 93 did not have a vinyl release. However, Now Dance The Best of 93 does have a vinyl release indeed. Now, sadly, I don't own the vinyl release of this album. I have seen it online, but prices are often quite high for it, and you want to try and get a good deal. I'm not sure whether it has, I'm guessing it has 38 tracks as well. I can't envision it having more. Maybe it's got 40, who knows. But if you really want to fulfill your vinyl set, then you have to look out for Now Dance The Best of 93, because there is a vinyl version of that. But aside from that, I got these on CD. They were literally about £1 a piece, if that. These are really common, really cheap to come by these days on places like eBay or Music Magpie. Honestly, if you search it, you'll be able to find it dead easy. But which one is worth it? I mean, if you're a collector like me and you want the set, you'll probably get both. But if you're determined to pick one, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's pretty clear the one to go for is the best of 93. I mean, you're getting a whole extra disc full of extra songs, which, I mean, you're getting, how many more songs is that? 18 more songs than this album. And you're also getting the full scope of 1993 with this album, because I'm guessing Now Dance 93 must have come out maybe like the summertime, whereas this came out at the end of the year. You're getting some of the songs on here, quite a lot of the songs on here actually, but then also a boatload of new stuff. So if you're really into your dance music and maybe have a limited budget, but you really like that era, 1993, go for the best of 93. Now Dance 93 is good, but this one's sort of a dispensable album. It's not essential if you're on a budget or if you only want a limited amount of CDs in your house. So I'd say if these two were in a fight, the winner, by a long shot for me, would be Now Dance the best of 93. But both do a solid job of representing the era of dance music it came from. Obviously, as the 90s rolled along, Eurodance was becoming really big, dance music in general was becoming really big, so it only makes sense really that more releases pumped out. But if you tune in next time, we'll roll along to 1994, and let's just say, they went overkill in 1994. Hi there guys, it's Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And today we're continuing our journey through the Now Dance series, and this time it's going to be a mega video. We're in the year 1994 and we have not one, not two, not even three, but four releases that came in the year 1994. I think that's a record so far on the Now Dance journey, but rest assured I have all four of those releases here, and we're going to be taking a look at every single one of Now Dance 94. So 1994 must have been a pretty good year for dance music if this is anything to go by. But of course, we will start with the first that was released, which is this one over here. Now Dance 94, Volume 1. So as you can see, I have this on two formats. I have it on CD and I have it on vinyl. And interestingly enough, the vinyl edition here is the last Now Dance release to be issued on vinyl. So anything after this was only released on CD and then cassette and then later digitally as well. So it's annoying that the last vinyl release is Volume 1 of Now Dance 94. I kind of wish they'd have just followed through and at least done Volume 1 and Volume 2. But alas, here we have Now Dance 94 Volume 1 with 19 of the greatest dance tracks, it says. The cover's quite wavy. I mean, it's got this big red Now, which is like very out there and obnoxious. And you've got the font here, which is pretty simplistic. It's similar to Now Dance 93. And I don't know, the colour scheme here, I kind of like it. It's a bit all over the place, but it's charming enough. And this includes the Doobie Brothers, Culture Beat, M People, U2, K-Class, D-Ream, K7, and the Urban Cookie Collective, and I'm sure many more. So if you flick over at the back for that all-important track list, I'm going to put you over there, and I'm going to take you through what we have. So side 1, you have the Doobie Brothers with Long Train Running, The Sure Is Pure 7-inch edit, Culture Beat with Got to Get It, M People with Moving On Up, K-Class with Let Me Show You, the club mix, D-Ream with Things Can Only Get Better, the dream mix edit, DJ Duke with Blow Your Whistle, the radio edit, a Homeboy, a Hippie, and a Funky Dread, I think that says, with Here We Go Again, K7 with Come Baby Come, radio edit, EYC with Feeling Alright, and Ice-T with That's How I'm Living on the Rocks remix. So that's side 1, that's a pretty good first side if you ask me. A lot of solid tracks from 1994. I think my personal favourites on this side would be Moving On Up by M People, and Things Can Only Get Better by D-Ream as well. But let's move on over to side 2 and see what we have. So you've got the Urban Cookie Collective with Feels Like Heaven, U2 with Lemon, the Perfecto mix, Frankie Goes to Hollywood with Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, the original 7-inch A-side, Alex Party with Alex Party, Saturday Night Party, a lot of parties, Exoterics with Satisfy My Love, Hadaway with Life, Saget with Funk Dat, Judy Cheeks with So In Love, The Real Deal, the Frankie Fonts radio edit, and finishing off with Gabrielle and I Wish. And yeah, there's a lot to say about this side, so particular notes. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome by Frankie Goes to Hollywood is actually one of the songs on the album of the same name that originally came out in 1984. So what on earth is this doing on a compilation from 1994, you ask? Well, to my knowledge, that particular song was re-released as a single and actually did decently well in the charts. I think it got top 20, so it must have been that big in the dance scene that they put it on this album. And also another one I want to talk about is Life by Hadaway. Now a lot of you might know the name Hadaway for the huge Eurodance hit What Is Love, which came out the year previous in 93. Life was one of the follow-up singles, and when you compare it to What Is Love, I think it's very lackluster in comparison. But you know, it's decent, but it's very typical Eurodance fare in my opinion. So that is the track list, your 19 tracks, and if I focus on that barcode a second, as you can see it says NOD 11, as this is in fact the 11th Now Dance release, so that's a nice bit of continuity there in keeping with the rest of them. Now as this is a vinyl release, of course it has the vinyl record disc inside, so I'm going to take it out its cover and just show you what it looks like. So here is the disc. We've actually got a bit of variety here, so this is blue with red text, which actually correlates quite well. I think that's quite nice. And then flip it, you've got a red, it is red, trust me, with black text. So nice to have a bit of variety for once in the discs. And yeah, just sad to see that this is in fact the last vinyl release for the Now Dance series. So that is the vinyl release, but what about the CD, you ask? Well, the CD is still 19 tracks, that's all they could fit onto one disc it seems, and as far as I know the track list is exactly the same. We'll just have a quick scan, but yeah, already looking at it, this is exactly the same track list. There's no differentiation as there was with Now Dance 92, for example. This is still a Now Dance 11 according to this, although now it's on CD. And if we open it up, there you go, there's your distance sides. They've gone with the blue on red font there, which is fine, and you've got your track list there once again. So nothing too special to say about the CD. There's your spine. I really like that font for Now Dance, actually. That's a really cool font. Nothing much more to say about the CD except it's the exact same track list, so by this point you're really picking your preference as to what format you want it on. This is also available on cassette as well. So in terms of general availability, where can you get these? Well, the CD is very common, you can get that. I think I literally got that for £1. I'm sure the cassette's not that expensive either. The real moneymaker is the vinyl edition. Now, of course, with this being the last Now Dance release on vinyl, it is going to fetch a little bit more than some of the others. I think some of the early Now Dance albums, I commented that, you know, they were a couple of pounds, maybe £10 maximum if you were getting them brand new. This one, for example, cost me around £40, which might sound like a lot of money, but again, you got to consider this was 1994. Vinyl was dying on its feet by then in terms of like general album sales. Most people had moved on to CD, and also this is the last in the Now Dance series, so it probably didn't sell all that well. So I'm lucky to have a copy. But if you're looking for a copy, just make sure, as always, the vinyl is in good condition. But if you're not particularly questing to get every Now Dance on vinyl, I'd stick with the CD or the cassette edition. Right, well that's Volume 1 covered of 1994. Oh, you thought that was it? Well, no, we've got a few more to look at, so let's move on to Volume 2. So here it is, we have Now Dance 94 Volume 2, which has 20 of the greatest dance tracks. That's a very presumptuous title. Now, whereas the Volume 1 cover I sort of admired and liked the colour schemes, this is just horrible. I mean, it's got the same Now font and the same Dance 94 font and all that sort of stuff, but the colours, all this light blue and dark blue swirls mixed with yellow, and I think it looks hideous personally. I'm sure some of you might like it. So on here you've got Reel to Reel, the Urban Cookie Collective, again, Eternal, To Unlimited, E17, Shara Nelson, The Orb, Enigma, and many more. Well, if you say so, let's take a look at the track list, and that is unbearably small to read. I'm going to have to zoom in. I do apologise, my eyes aren't that good, and this is incredibly difficult to read. So you've got To Unlimited with Let the Beat Control Your Body, E17 with It's Alright, Reel to Reel featuring the Mad Stuntman with I Like to Move It, Urban Cookie Collective with Sail Away, Eternal with Save Our Love, Shara Nelson with Uptight, Carleen Anderson with Nervous Breakdown, River Ocean featuring India with Love and Happiness, Juliet Roberts with I Want You, and Sub Sub with Respect. And then if you move over here, you have D-Mob with Kathy Dennis with Why, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince with Can't Wait to Be With You, Joe with I'm in Love, Urban Species with Spiritual Love, The Orb with Perpetual Dawn, Enigma with Return to Innocence, Atlantic Ocean with Waterfall, Bass Bumpers with The Music's Got Me, Barbara Tucker with Beautiful People, and Joey Negro with What a Life. So that's the 20 tracks you've got on here, and I think if we look at the barcode, yes, it is CD NOD 12, the 12th Now Dance release overall. So that's your track list. I'll just open this up, show you what's inside. There you go. That disc is slightly, the darker blue is slightly more bearable. It's actually got all the tracks there, not the artist, so I couldn't have read it off that really. And it's always annoying in the Now Dance series, at least at this point, the little booklet is literally just the track list again and production information. Whereas if you remember in the numbered series, the booklets would have information about the artist and like where they placed in the charts and the album you could get this from. Not so much here. It's a shame they didn't transport that over. I know this probably wasn't their main focus, but it could have been too much to include some information, could it? In terms of the track list on here, I mean, it's decent enough. I think I prefer the track list on Volume 1 of Now Dance 94. There are good songs on here, like It's Alright by E17, for example, the Eternal song that's on here, and I'm glad they put Enigma on here, which are very, like, it's almost, Enigma, to describe it, is basically like Gregorian choir music mixed with, like, dance and, like, early 90s sort of dance. It's really cool, actually, but so there's a lot of interesting songs on here, but just for me personally, in my taste, I much prefer Volume 1 of Now Dance 94, and I guess maybe if you were a kid back then and had a limited amount of pocket money, maybe you had to choose. I'm not sure whether these came out at the same time. I doubt they did. They often stagger these through the year, so this would have come out after. I mean, you get one more track than Now Dance 94 Volume 1, granted, but yeah, if you had to give me the option, I'd definitely go with Volume 1. They've changed the font of Now Dance as well here. I think that just looks very childish, very tacky, just no thank you. I mean, now where can you get this from? Well, again, like all the CD versions of the Now Dance stuff, it's very common to come by. I got this again for around £1. The cassette will be fairly inexpensive as well, but for the first time, well, not the first time actually, because Now Dance 93 didn't have one, but in 1994 anyway, it's the first time that this Now Dance album does not have a vinyl equivalent, which I wish they did at least do Volume 1 and Volume 2 just to complete the set. As far as I know, there wasn't a vinyl edition. I've looked in a lot of places. I've looked in Discogs as well, which is like a big music database, and no record of a vinyl version of this album is known to exist. But if there does, that would be a mystery to solve, wouldn't it? But that's Now Dance 94 Volume 2, a little lackluster in my opinion, but now we move on to the summery weather. So you've had Volume 1 and had Volume 2, which are both single discs. Now you have Now Dance Summer 94. So we're into the summer album. So this correlates nicely with the recent album that just came out, of course, Now 100 Hit Summer. This is 2 discs, as it proudly proclaims on here. We're back to 2-disc albums with 40 sizzling dance hits. It's 2 CD special value, it says. I wonder how much this cost back in the day. It must have been special value. In terms of the artwork, it's almost like that 60s pop art style. It's very trippy, actually. You've got like sunflower pop art, and the text, again, is very like standard and very, I don't know, like early word art sort of thing, I think. I don't know if that's what they were going for at the time. I know a lot of brands use this sort of thing, but yeah, it just feels a little lackluster, the font. But I do like the sunflower pop art effect here. And who have we got? Including M People, Hadaway, D Ream, Capella, CJ Lewis, Tony DeBart, Jocelyn Brown and Kim Mazel, Max, Blast, Reel to Reel, 2 Unlimited, and Eternal. So we're back to 2 discs. If you remember though, the early 2-disc Now Dance albums had 20 tracks because a lot of them were 12-inch extended mixes. I think the emphasis on 12-inch extended mixes has now gone from the series. I mean, the Volume 1 and Volume 2 only had 20 tracks across 1 disc. So I think we've stopped with 12-inch extended mixes, which I think is a shame because I thought that gave people a nice option from hearing what was on a standard album. But nevertheless, let's turn this over, and we have 40 tracks. Now, I might not read this out, I might just scan on down, because that is a lot of tracks to talk about, although funnily enough, I can actually read this one. So, a lot of good tracks I'm seeing on there. Move On Baby by Capella is a great song. Skipping on there, you got Because of You by Gabrielle, for example. Dupe by Dupe, what a song. I Like to Move It. Okay, so you're seeing some of them like crossover here. Two could play that game. Bobby Brown. Yeah, there's some crossover because obviously this is summer, so I'm guessing they're taking some stuff from the first 2 volumes, which is fine. I mean, this if it was just 1 disc, I'd have more of a problem with it, but because it's 2, I've got less of an issue. And this is CD NOD 13, as it is the 13th Now Dance release. I do like how they keep that continuity at least. I'll just open this up before I talk about the track list, if I can open it up. There we go. So that is your CD there. That's CD 1. And if you open it there, it's fallen out. Of course it has. I wouldn't expect any different. It's CD 2. I like how you've got the 2 different colours. You've got the blue and you've got the yellow. I think that's quite nice. And you get a full view of the sunflower pop art as well, which I think is a nice little touch while I fiddle with the disc. This feels like a Meteor booklet. Just having a look inside, again, it is mainly just production information. I do think that is such a missed opportunity in my opinion. Like, why not include information about the artist you're featuring on here? That seems obvious, but nevertheless, that's what it is. So in terms of the track list, this is these are great summery songs. I mean, I'm glad they got Rock My Heart by Hadaway. That is a strong Hadaway follow-up to What Is Love in my opinion, so I highly recommend that if you haven't heard it. And as I say, you've got some carryover from Now Dance 94 Volume 1 and 2. If this was a single disc release, as I said, I would have been a bit more bothered because it seems like you're just wasting your money buying the same songs again. But as this is 2 discs and those repeat tracks only take up a small minority, I find that quite good. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen as I've been scanning through some songs that you might remember from the time or songs that you think stand out. And I think the important thing to remember with summer albums, because I noticed this on my review of Now 100 Hit Summer, a lot of people said these songs aren't about summer, or they don't relate to summer, or they don't make you think of summer. Well, I'd argue any song that makes me think of summer, or a song that I think could be played during summer at a party, whether it's about summer or not, is a summer song. And it was the same with that album, and it's the same with this. A lot of these are very summery songs for me. So you've had Volume 1, you've had Volume 2, and you've just enjoyed the summer of '94. But we've got one more release to look at. It only seemed inevitable. Here is Now Dance, the best of '94. Now, right off the bat, you can see this is taking a lot of inspiration from the Now Summer Dance '94 in a big way. I mean, look at the cover. You've got that pop art style, but instead of a sunflower, it's just the number 94. There's 40 massive dance hits, just like on the other album, and it's a 2 CD special value, as it likes to boldly proclaim. I find the colours of the font less like jarring this time. The other one was like a lot of yellows and oranges. This is like a nice cool blue, a nice easy purple. I just find this really nice it's really easy to look at, basically. Pato Banton with Robin and Ali Campbell. You've got MC Star and the Real McCoy. You've got well, we don't talk about him. Reel to Reel feat the Mad Stuntman. I can't say that word. The Grid, Eternal, Max, M People, and many more. Oh, controversial album to say the least. There is the spine of said album. And you have your 40 massive dance hits on the back. And I'm just going to scan down there. That's a big song, track 2, which I can't say the name of the artist. But right off the bat, these are some great songs on here. I'm just reading them. And again, I'm already noticing as well, some of them are repeats from the other albums. But in a way, you've got to kind of forgive it because this is a best of compilation. If it was touting to be something different, again, I'd be a lot more bothered. But because it isn't, I can let it slide. And as you can see, it's the CD NOD 14, as this is indeed the 14th release in the Now Dance series. Talk more about that track list in a moment. Crack that open. There you go. So there is a pink disc for CD 1, and has this fallen out? It hasn't. It's a purple disc for CD 2. Now those two colours, I think they contrast really well. That is a beautiful colour for 2 discs there. And like the summer album, you get a view of the pop art style without the fonts, so just a lot of 94. So if 94 is your favourite number, you're in luck because there's certainly a lot of them here. Now, the track list. Obviously, the summer album had some repeats, and this has way more repeats. But I will let this slide as this is the best of 94. So of course you're going to take the best dance tracks from the other albums and whack them on here. That's only natural. So whether you should buy this or not, I mean, if you bought the other albums, you might want to consider whether you're going to buy this or not, because there are some tracks that didn't feature on those. But by that same token, if you bought the other 3 albums, there are bound to be tracks on there that are on this. So if you've got the money and you don't mind a fair bit of repeating, then go for it. But then this album's really for the people who didn't get the other releases, I think. If you just want one album that summarizes 1994 in dance music, then this is the one you should definitely get. Fairly easy to pick up. It's about £1 on CD, probably a couple of quid on cassette, and again, no vinyl release of it. So those indeed are your 4 releases from 1994. It must have either been a really good year for dance in the eyes of the producers here, or they just really wanted to expand the dance range, because we haven't seen this many releases of Now Dance since 1990, when there were 3 releases. So which of these is my personal favourite? Well, my personal favourite is Now Dance 94 Volume 1. Just the track list there really connects with me. I really enjoy the music there. But you've really got to check out these track lists to decide for yourself if you're going to be picky, if you're only going to get one of the 4 or not all of them. I mean, if you're a collector and if you just like dance music in the year 1994, you'll probably get all 4 of these, but really consider looking at the track lists before you do. As I mentioned, all of these on CD are dirt cheap, like £1, £2 max. I mean, vinyl, the only one that's got vinyl is Volume 1. CD, they're all available on CD, I just said that. Cassette, you're probably looking at a couple of quid for each, but they all had cassette releases to my knowledge. But yeah, is it too much? Is it a bit of a saturation? You could argue so, putting out 4 releases in the span of 1 year, but at least each are different. Volume 1 and 2 sort of take account different parts of the year. Summer is exactly what it says on the tin, and then you've got the best of to summarise the previous 3. So definitely check out the track list to decide which one of these, if maybe all of them, or one of them, or none of them, is right for you.
Hello guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And in today's instalment we continue our journey through the Now Dance series as we've hit the year 1995. And whereas in the last year, Now Dance 94, we had 4 releases, we've gone down this time to 2. I have for you Now Dance 95 and Now Dance Summer 95. So as customary, we will start with the first of these, so I think we will take a look at this one first. Now Dance 95. So taking a look at the cover, this is certainly very bright and colourful. Got a butterfly image. I love the sort of blend of the orange and blues. The dance font, what they've done there, I actually quite like that a lot. Whatever effect that is really cool. The 95 is that classic bubble font of the 90s. Overall, it's still a very sort of basic design, for want of a better word, which was definitely very common back in that era. I'm not a great fan of it. I admire a bit of detail and structured detail, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. It says 40 ultimate dance hits, and this has the 2 CD special value. They must have really been harping on about 2 CDs back then. And of course, well, I'll show you the spine. There's the spine. And then, of course, we will see who is on there. So, you have the Bucketheads, Entrance, Perfecto All-Stars, Alex Party, Eternal, M People, Strike, Clock, MC Star and The Real McCoy, and many more. Well, let's take a look at that many more as we look at the all-important track list. Okay, so you have 40 tracks on here. Probably not going to list all these ones as there is 40, but you can easily see them there. Clock by Axel F is a great song. Scroll on down there, you got some M People on there, Baby D, Snap, everyone loves a bit of Snap, Alex Party, Cotton Eye Joe by Rednecks down there, one of the biggest dance songs of that year, that's for sure. Really a lot of great songs on there, obviously. Oh, Nikki French did a cover of Total Eclipse of the Heart. That'll either be really good or really not so good. Scrolling down there, you got, well, a certain song by someone we can't talk about. And scroll down there, you got the flavour. So that is your 40 tracks, and if I just zoom up to the barcode there, you will in fact see it says CD NOD 15, as this is indeed the 15th release in the Now Dance series. Okay then, let's get this bad boy open. So we're going to crack open the disc, if I can do that, crack open the disc. There's this one, a nice bright orange. Orange is an interesting colour, isn't it? I've never really liked it that much, but I must say I'm warming to it more as I get older, and this is a very nice disc. There's the cover design, although it's a different blend of colours, but that is indeed the cover design. And if I open this, there you go, there is disc 2, which is a nice blue. I much prefer this colour, and that is the title, just without the, that's the cover, sorry, without the title. So yeah, it's a 2-disc set, 40 tracks, and I mean, it's the same goes with any of these. A lot of strong dance music is on here, and if you're into dance music from the year 1995, then this is definitely one for you. I mean, Clock by Axel F is a great song. I mean, Sight for Sore Eyes by M People as well. Just when go back and scan that track list and tell me there isn't some classic dance tracks here from 1995. Honestly, highly recommend that. You can get this on CD, as I've got here. There is no vinyl release. That stopped with Now Dance 94 Volume 1. You can get this on cassette as well. I'm guessing it'll be a double cassette, as it's 40 tracks on here. And this CD only literally cost me like £1.50, and that's what you really need to pay for this. It's really cheap, very easy to come by. But if a normal Now Dance album wasn't enough, they just had to get in with a summer edition. So now we will take a look at Now Dance 95 Summer Edition. Or should I say Now Dance Summer 95 is its proper title. So looking at the cover, you've got definitely a more summery vibe with like the blue waves, and you can see there's a starfish in the background, sort of superimposed negative. It says 20 scorching dance hits. Well, that means it must be good. The font on here is again very 90s. This one's a bit more blocky, a bit more rigid. I do like this sort of font design more than the other one, but again, it is sort of that 90s basic word art thing that I'm not like overly enthused about, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. I think the colour scheme blends a lot better on here though, that's for sure. There's your spine. And who have we got on here? You have the Out There Brothers, Shaggy, Bobby Brown, Clock, Live Enjoy, Jam and Spoon, and many more. Okay, well that sounds promising. So, 20 tracks on here. Who have we got? You have Boom 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 by the Out Here Brothers, In the Summertime, Shaggy featuring Rayvon. Here Comes the Hot Stepper by Eni Camos. Humping Around by Bobby Brown, goodness. Right in the Night, Fall in Love with Music by Jam and Spoon. Try Me Out by, not gonna say it, Woomph, There It Is by Clock. Zombie by ADAM featuring Amy. Dreamer by Live Enjoy, one of the best dance songs in the entire 90s. Heart of Glass, the Diddy's Adorable Edit by Blondie. Your Loving Arms by Billy Ray Martin. Not Over Yet by Grace. Get Your Hands Off My Ma by Junior Vaquez. I'm pronouncing that wrong. Stay or Tonight by Isha D. As Long As You're Good to Me by Judy Cheeks. Magic in You by the Sugar Babies, not the Sugar Babes, the Sugar Babies. Leave Home by the Chemical Brothers. Misirlu, theme to the motion picture Pulp Fiction by the Spaghetti Surfers. You're My One and Only True Love by Anne-Marie Smith. And Love Enough by Soul to Soul. And if we just quickly scan up to the barcode, it does indeed say CD NOD 16, as this is the 16th release in the Now Dance series. Well, that is your track list, so let's open up this doohickey. This is only one disc after all, as there is 20 tracks, and there it is. This is on a... Will you catch my reflection there? So that is a standard silver disc, silver reflective disc with the logo on it. I mean, it's sort of done across the middle. It looks a bit messy. I don't really like it when discs do this. I like to be able to see the text properly, so that's a bit of a shame. But, you know, this was probably more of a budget release. That's an image, or an alternate image of the cover, should I say. That's a real tripped out starfish. Patrick, what did they do to you? Sometimes you guys ask me to take out the booklets of these, and really there is no point, because on these albums it is just like the same track list and production information, so they're not as bulky or as fleshed out as, say, the numbered series. So, what do I think of this album? Well, obviously it's a lot more concise than the other one. I mean, there's only half the tracks to begin with, but, you know, these are pretty good summer bangers. I mean, Dreamer by Live and Joy, as I said, is one of the best, like, 90s dance songs ever. You've got Woomph, There It Is by Clock, that's another big hit. The In the Summertime version by Shaggy, that's well loved. Boom 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 by the Out Here Brothers. 1995 was just a really good year, I think, for dance music, or solid dance music anyway. So I'd highly recommend this one if you're into dance. If you were on a budget, I'd actually say, even though the other one has more tracks, I would get this one. You can get this one on CD, as I've shown you here, for like a couple of quid. You can also get it on cassette, but not on vinyl. So out of these two albums, I've already sort of given my recommendation as to which one, if I had to just pick one, that I'd go for, which would be Now Dance Summer 95. That's mainly personal choice on my part. I just think there's a lot less filler than there is. Now Dance 95 is good, but when you've got 40 tracks, you know, there's going to be some of those songs that you might want to skip, or some songs that you're not going to like. So I'd say if you're into like the mainstream dance stuff that was going on at the time, but you want a concise album, then Now Dance Summer 95 is definitely the one to go for. But of course, both of these, as I said, you can find really easily on CD, couple of quid each, or even on tape for a couple of quid each as well, but no vinyl releases, unfortunately. Is this the best year for Now Dance? I would argue not. But is it a solid year for Now Dance and not a bad one? Absolutely. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And today we're continuing the Now Dance journey with this instalment, Now Dance 97. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be saying, Adam, in the last episode you took a look at Now Dance 95, so where on earth is Now Dance 96? Well, sadly, dear viewer, for whatever reason they decided to skip the year 1996. Maybe it wasn't a good year of dance music, who knows? But they jumped straight from Now Dance 95 to Now Dance 97. And if we just take a look at the cover art here, you'll notice some familiarities. They've actually adapted the main Now That's What I Call Music logo, you know, that sort of same style we all know, with the Now at the top, the subtitle in that bar, and then the number or whatever it is underneath. So now the package is looking more like the mainstream numbered Now That's What I Call Music series. Of course, by this point, 1997, you were into like Now 37, 38, 39, that sort of territory. So it's interesting they skipped 96, but this cover is oh so 90s, that the whole dot motif that was sort of very popular towards the end of the decade against this lime green background. I'm not sure how I feel about the white dots correlating with the green. I mean, yes, it works, and like the orange of the logo is quite striking. I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like this sheen, like that little sparkle there. I really don't like that, but that is, of course, just personal preference. There is your spine, and this is 2 CDs, so let's take a look at the all-important track list on the back. And because it's just the one album today from 1997, let's have a look at what's on here. Okay, you have Spice Girls with Spice Up Your Life, Bellini with Samba de Janeiro, Gala with Freed From Desire, Entrance feat Rod Stewart with Do You Think I'm Sexy, Hot Chocolate with You Sexy Thing, Eternal feat Bebe Winhams with I Wanna Be the Only One, the Boss Cat main mix, Backstreet Boys with Everybody Backstreet's Back, 911 with Body Shaking, George Michael with The Strangest Thing 97, Rosie Gaines with Closer Than Close, the Spice Girls again with Who Do You Think You Are, To Ibiza with Ooh La La La, Sash feat Rodriguez with Ecuador, DJ Quicksilver with Bellissima, Poppers presents Aura with Every Little Time, The Course with Ready or Not, Stax with Joy 97, Chicane with Power Circle with Offshore 97, Louise with Arms Around the World, the Rated PG Club mix, BBE with Flash, Amini UK with Passion. So that's 21 tracks on disc 1. Let's move over to disc 2. So you have Moby with the James Bond theme, Chumbawamba with Tub Thumping, the Chemical Brothers with Block Rockin' Beats, the Blue Boy with Remember Me, the Source Feet Candy Station with You Got the Love, Eternal, again I think, with Angel of Mine, the Ignorance Club Mix, Coolio with Ooh La La, Boris de Lugosh presents Boom, that's a very odd artist name, with Hold Your Head Up High, Coco with I Need a Miracle, Laguna with Spiller from Rio, Do It Easy, Brainbug with Nightmare, DJ Quicksilver, again with Free, Fatboy Slim with Everybody Loves a Carnival, Prodigy with Breathe, the PF Project feat Ewan McGregor with Choose Life, Johnny Harris with Stepping Stones as heard on the Levi's advert, Tintin Out with Strings for Yasmin, Bentley Rhythm Ace with Bentley's Gonna Sort You Out, Slacker with Scared, Tall Paul with Rock the House, Diddy with Give Me Love, and Adam F with Circle. So that is a grand total of 43 tracks. And if we look under the barcode, it does indeed say CD NOD 17, as this is the 17th release overall in the Now Dance series. I've got to be honest, in my opinion, that's a pretty stellar track list, and I'll talk more about it in a moment, but we're going to open this up. And there is your disc, or disc 1 anyway, a nice very bright green colour, sort of matches the front cover, and the orange logo makes sense now in 2D rather than 3D. Yeah, do you know what? Green and orange, despite not being my overall favourite colours, they do correlate quite nicely on this disc. And if we just open this up, there is disc 2, which is the colours inverted, so the logo is now green and the disc is now orange. I think this is a lot more garish than disc 1, but you know, it still works as well. And oddly enough, you have the cover again. Now usually in this back plate they take the cover, remove the logo, so this in theory should just be the green background with the white dots, but for whatever reason they must have loved the logo so much that they decided to put it right there again. And as I mentioned before, I would get the booklet out, but really it doesn't add anything new. It is basically just the track list again with some additional like standard production stuff, not any interesting notes about the artist, which is a shame. So the track list, I actually really like this one. Oddly enough, a lot of the artists repeat twice, which I think at that point, at least on like one album, it did happen, but not like a lot. But like the Spice Girls are on here twice, Eternal's on here twice, DJ Quicksilver's on here twice. But I think these are all like cracking songs. I mean, Spice Girls, for example, 1997, they were like the biggest thing in the world, the biggest girl group. So you've got two of their tracks. You've got Spice Up Your Life, one of their best, and Who Do You Think You Are, also really well known. I mean, they launched Channel 5, for goodness sake. I mean, that's how big the Spice Girls were. And to be honest, I've noticed from this track list there is a lot of like actual songs focused on dance music. Like a lot of these I would consider to be proper dance tunes. Sure, some of them are more pop focused, like the Spice Girls even, and the Chumbawamba song for example, but there are some classic dance songs on here. Also a lot of songs with like the 97 prefix, have you noticed that? So like 97 follows the song name, so a lot of these implied these were re-releases or remixes of past songs, which is fine, but 1997 must have been a good year for like those remakes of songs. One song that is interesting, it's on here I think at least, is track 15 of CD2, which is the PF Project and Ewan McGregor with Choose Life. Now for anyone who knows, Choose Life of course was a phrase that Ewan McGregor's character said a lot in Trainspotting, so much so that they took his like monologue and made it into a dance song, and it's a good song. I'd say maybe it hasn't held up the best over the past 25 years, but you know, it's interesting that they decided to put it on here when a mainstream audience wouldn't necessarily take to it all the way through. Another song that I hear a lot, like DJ Quicksilver Free, for example, I Need a Miracle by Coco, which I find is one of those songs that like you might not know it at first, but as soon as you hear it you go, yep, that's the one. So a good blend of pop, like, and you got the Backstreet Boys, I mean that's pop in a nutshell. I think you've just got a good blend of like the pop stuff mixed with like your more hardcore dance stuff of the era. So in a nutshell, would I recommend this album to you? I think absolutely, especially if you're a dance fan. This is most certainly one of the best releases in the Now Dance series I think we've looked at so far. And considering you went from, you know, 4 releases in 1994 down to 2 releases in 1995 and then just skipping a year and then to 1 release in 1997, I think this album provides you a great package of great pop tunes, great dance tunes, just great tunes overall. Now where can you get this? Well, in a lot of places and quite easily. I picked mine up on CD for less than £1, so you can get it on CD very easily. There is also a cassette edition, which shouldn't be too hard to find. I wouldn't pay more than £5 for that, should be on a double cassette. And sadly, there is no vinyl release of this album. So Now Dance 97, I'd have to give it some time to decide whether it's my favourite so far in the Now Dance series, but it's definitely in my top 3. There's a great selection of tracks, really great choices. There's been no filler, no sort of major compromise here. Solid album in the series. Good to relaunch it if they took a break from 1996. And we'll only see how they continue to go on as we head on towards the end of the 1990s. But let me know in the comments section, do you own Now Dance 97? If you do, what format do you own it on? Which of the tracks on here is your favourite song? Or alternatively, do you not like Now Dance 97? Are the tracks not really your thing? Let me know in that comment section below. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And for today's instalment, we're continuing our Now Dance journey by moving on to 1998 and looking at the rather aptly titled Now Dance 98. So first off, looking at the cover, as you can see, this in many ways is continuing the precedent that was set with the previous release, which was Now Dance 97, that being with that very 90s font there. I really like. I mean, it reminds me of Get Your Own Back. Do you remember that show on CBBC? It's very much that late 90s style of font. I do like the colours actually, more not the green and orange of 97, but now we're in blues and purples. I find this personally more aesthetically pleasing than Now Dance 97, but I can appreciate some might think otherwise. But overall, yeah, very nice cover, very neon-esque, very attractive to the consumer. So there's the spine for you, which says Now Dance 98 in a very bold font there. So, of course, we must look at the all-important track list and see what 1998 had to offer. Right, so kicking it off with Stardust and Music Sounds Better With You. Incredible song if you haven't heard it. Janet Jackson, Together Again. The Tempera feat Maya, Feel It. Bamboo with Bamboogie. Bus Stop featuring Randy Bachman with You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. Fatboy Slim with Gangsta Trippin'. Billy with Girlfriend, the De-Influence Real Live mix. Yes, that is Billy Piper. Ace of Base with Life is a Flower. Teaspoon with Sex on the Beach, great song. All Sense with Lady Marmalade. 911 with More Than a Woman. Steps with One for Sorrow. Tintin Out feat Shelley Nelson with Here's Where the Story Ends. Jennifer Page with Crush, the dance mix. Billy again, twice on the first disc with Because We Want To. Spice Girls with Stop. Diva Surprise feat Georgia Jones with On Top of the World. Baby Bumps with Burnin'. Love Station with Teardrops. Alexia with The Music I Like. And DJ Quicksilver with Time Rider. So that's disc 1. Let's have a look over at CD 2. So kicking off you have Sash feat Tina Cousins with Mysterious Times. Lucid with I Can't Help Myself. Nalin and Kane with Beach Ball, the Tall Paul 98 remix. Energy 52 with Cafe Del Mar. Touch and Go with Would You. Fatboy Slim, there he is again with the Rockefeller Skank. Corner Shop with Brimful of Asher, the Norman Cook remix. Run DMC with Jason Nevins with It's Like That. T Zant with Sounds of the Wickedness. Lunas with I've Got 5 on it, the Urban Takeover Radio remix. Of course, that song got a boost with the film Us last year. Lyndon David Hall with Sexy Cinderella, the Cutfather and Joe remix. Rosie Gaines with I Want You, the Booker T mix. Barbara Tucker with Everybody Dance, the Horn song. Perpetual Motion with Keep On Dancing, Let's Go. Binary Finery with 1998. Commisera with Let Me Show You. Storm with Storm, very inventive. Stardust with Music Sounds Better With You again, but this is the DJ Sneak mix. Very interesting, they put the same song on this album twice, just a different mix. Mark et Claude with La, Blue Adonis with Disco Cop, and the Venga Boys with Up and Down. Not their best song off that first album, but a decent one nonetheless. And it might be hard to read there, but that is CDNOD 18, as this is the 18th release in the Now Dance series. So, 42 tracks in total for this album. Pretty impressive and interesting to see how they repeat on this one. So Billie Piper is on it twice, both on the same disc. Normally they go one on disc 1, one on disc 2. So really interesting she's on the first disc. I guess it shows how much of a breakout star she was at the time. And she was quite young, one of the youngest pop stars as well, still in her teens. Of course, you've got big hitters like the Spice Girls are on here with songs like Stop. And as I mentioned, the most interesting aspect is probably putting the Stardust song, Music Sounds Better With You, as both the first track of track 1, but also include a separate version of it on disc 2. I'm not sure if that's ever happened on a Now album before, not just a dance album, but even the numbered ones, where the same song has appeared just with 2 different remixes. For all I know, that might be the first and only time. Please let me know if I'm incorrect, but I just find that really fascinating, actually. But of course, now I will open this up and we will take a look at the discs. So cracking it open, there you have disc 1, which is It's pretty much simple, you know, all metallic and silver as a standard CD is, with a purple thing going on here that says Disc 1. I actually kind of like this more minimalist approach, especially for the dance series. I hope they continue on that as we look on in future episodes. And Disc 2 is the same thing. I would have appreciated a different colour, perhaps, than purple again, maybe like a deep blue or lighter blue, like the cover, in fact. Speaking of the cover, it's there again. They haven't removed the title, although I guess if you look at the back of the booklet, you know, it doesn't leave much to the imagination. And as standard with these dance albums, I won't get the booklet out, because really, all you get in the booklets for this one is just the track list again, and some production information. Nothing really about the albums they come from or about the artists themselves, which I will still maintain for the dance series to not include that, I think is a real shame. So how does this album stack up? Well, as late 90s music goes, I'd actually say it stacks up really rather well. I really enjoy the track list on here, even though you've got the same song twice. I still can't get over that Stardust song, why they included it twice. But you've got some great tunes on here, like remixes of I Got 5 on it, for example, or Mysterious Times, the Stash song, or you got Fatboy Slim on here twice for some of his best work, like the Rockefeller Skank. Together Again is a great Janet Jackson song as well. There's a lot of great tunes here from the late 90s. A lot of the ones the pop kids will remember, but also got some good dance tunes as well. I do like this direction that Now Dance is going, how there's a little bit of the blend of the pop and the dance. I can understand why that would irritate some people, those who maybe want a purely dance experience with no sort of pop influences, but I feel dance music was quite an integral part of pop, especially throughout the 1990s. So where can you get this from? Well, I got this CD version for little over £1 off Music Magpie through their eBay site. It is available on CD, it is also available on cassette, and shouldn't be too hard for you to find. I wouldn't pay any more than £5 for it, and sadly, there is no vinyl release. But should you get Now Dance 98? Well, the simple answer is, if you like the dance music of the era, if you like some of the pop hits as well, then definitely I think anyone who grew up in the late 90s, early noughties is going to adore this album. There's some real major throwbacks on here. However, as typical with this dance series, especially if you don't like 90s music, and particularly if you don't like the 90s dance style of music, then stay well away. Stick to your numbered series, stick to your select spin-offs, but for any dance fan, this is another winner for the Now Dance series. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And today we continue our Now Dance journey by looking at the first release that bears the number at least of the new millennium, for we are looking at Now Dance 2000. And as you can tell in our last dance review, it was Now Dance 98, so there was no official release titled Now Dance 99. A bit weird because they missed 96 as well. I wonder why they kept skipping years, kind of ruins the consistency, but nevertheless, here is Now Dance 2000, and if we just look at the cover, they've gone for a mainly sort of grey background with a red logo. Now this logo is what many people associate the Now Dance brand with, that sort of late 90s, early 2000s tube-ish sort of design. I think it's actually the same font they used on the kids show Get Your Own Back, anyone who's old enough to remember that wonderful show. And it's got the Virgin logo in the bottom right. I don't know if that was the first time, I might have missed it before, but yeah, I like the red that strikes out against the grey, but I've got to be honest, grey has never been like one of my favourite colours for anything, so to see it take up so much of the background is a little bit disappointing, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. This is 2 discs, as the CD suggests, and I can't decide whether this version I've got is like a, not a bootleg version, but put in a second-hand case, because it certainly feels like it, but nevertheless, I'm going to flip it round, and we're going to take a look at that all-important track list. Okay, so on disc 1 you have Bob Marley versus Funk Star Deluxe with The Sun Is Shining, DJ Jean with The Launch, ATB 9pm or Till I Come, Armand Van Helden feat. Duane Harden with You Don't Know Me, Fats and Small with Turn Around, Basement Jaxx with Red Alert, Paul Johnson with Get Down, Motoko with Sing It Back, Shaft with Mucho Mambo Sway, The Chemical Brothers with Hey Boy Hey Girl, Wise Guys with Ooh La La, Shanks and Bigfoot with Sweet Like Chocolate, Fatboy Slim with Praise You, Mr. Olzo with Flat Beat, Cassius with Cassius 1999, The Dream Team versus Nina Cherry with Buddy X, Doolally with Straight From The Heart, Madison Avenue with Don't Call Me Baby, Soul Searcher with Can't Get Enough, Inner City with Buena Vida or Good Life, and Big Time Charlie with On The Run. So that's disc 1, 22 tracks on there. So on CD 2 you have Eternal with What They're Gonna Do, the Beatmasters vocal 7-inch, you have Britney Spears with Sometimes, Tintin Out feat. Emma Bunton with What Am I, the Groove Chronicle remix, Ann Lee with 2 Times, S Club 7 with Bring It All Back, Venga Boys with Boom 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 Boom, DJ Gerkuman presents Alice DJ with Better Off Alone. Blockster with You Should Be. Jerry Halliwell with Mi Chico Latino, the Charlie Rapino version. You have Precious with Say It Again. Tina Cousins with Killin' Time 99. Powerhouse feat. Duane Harden with What You Need. Umanda with Synth and Strings. Binary Finery with 1999, the Goriella remix. Planet Perfecto with Bullet in the Gun. Fragma with Toca Mi. Chicane feat. Mary Brennan of Grenade with Salt Water. DJ Sakin and Friends with Protect Your Mind for the Love of a Princess. Myro Picotto with, I can't even read what that says behind the scuff. Alice DJ with Back in My Life, the Thrill Seekers remix edit. Fatboy Slim with Right Here, Right Now, and LCD with Zorba's Dance. 22 tracks, so 44 tracks in total. I don't know if you can see down there at the bottom, this is actually marked 1999, not 2000. So that is your track list. I mean, 44 tracks across two discs is very impressive indeed. And as I mentioned, it has 1999 instead of the year 2000 at the bottom, which implies that this actually came out in 1999 and not the year 2000, which makes sense because a lot of these songs, as I'm reading them, I'm like in my head, I'm sure they came out in 1999 or they were big in 1999, and that is indeed the case. Just a few standout favourites for me. For the Love of a Princess, Protect Your Mind is a really cool dance version of the Braveheart theme from the 1995 film Braveheart. You've got Boom 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 by the Venga Boys, which is a classic song. You've got a Britney Spears classic on there as well. A few pop classes mixed with dance. I know some people say as they go into the early 2000s they don't like this blend of dance and pop, but I'm all for it personally. Right, let's crack this open and look at the discs. So here is disc 1, a nice bold red colour with black text. I actually really like that. Very simplistic, straight to the point, like it. And on disc 2, if the case doesn't fall apart, which it has, there is the black disc 2 again with the red font. Really like these discs. I would argue these are actually my favourite disc designs of the Now Dance series so far. So those were the discs and the innards, and we've had a look at the track list. So overall verdict on this album, well, I have to say aesthetically at least, I love the whole package of this album, how everything's sort of very sleek, very stylish, very controlled. It was this sort of move in dance music presentation to go for a less like out there wacky vibe to something a bit more subdued, I suppose might be the correct term. But anyway, it's a really nice design. The track list is good. It's not my favourite track list, definitely. There's a lot of songs I wasn't familiar with by name, although I'm sure if I heard them I'd recognise them. I wasn't really into hardcore dance music in 1999 because I was, 3 years old. But the ones I do know over time are really good. It's a solid selection. Who is this for? I mean, as usual with these albums, if you're into dance music, particularly late 90s stuff, you will love this. If you don't like dance music, and if you don't like late 90s pop/dance, I would stay well away. I got mine from Music Magpie for about £1, although it seems to, as I say, come in a second-hand case that is literally falling apart anytime I open it. CD cases are easy to replace and easy to fix, but it's just more the inconvenience, So you can get it dirt cheap. I believe there is a cassette version. I don't own it, but cassettes were still around in 1999. Might be a bit rare as you go into the 2000s, but I am assuming, yes, there is a cassette version of this album. And sadly, no vinyl release. But how will things pick up as it enters the new millennium proper in terms of dance music? Well, you'll just have to tune in next time to find out. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And we are back on the dance journey after long last as we continue our look back through the Now Dance series, and we have reached Now Dance 2001. Now the first thing you'll probably notice is the year 2001 was apparently spread out across 2 releases. This began the trend of releasing 2 albums to, well, commemorate a year in dance, which I think is a good idea. It harkens back to, some of the stuff they did in the 90s where they do Volume 1 and Volume 2. Now they call them Part 1 and Part 2, so I'm all for it as long as the track lists justify what's on here. Is it worth it, basically? Now, funnily enough, from what I can gather, Now Dance 2001 Part 1 was released in the year 2000, I'm presuming towards the end of the year, and Now Dance 2001 Part 2 was released in 2001, so it sort of straddles before and after 2001 takes place, which I think is an interesting choice all told. But then again, from memory, the Now Dance 2000 release did come out in 1999, so there's a bit of precedent for it. First of all, let's talk about the covers. They're still keeping in with the Now Dance font. I've always enjoyed the Now Dance font, to be honest, that sort of 90s tube design that was very common at the time. It still went into the 2000s, but I think it works really well for these releases. It's what you'd see in a lot of clubs, and it's quite synonymous with dance, I think. Now we'll look at these individually, though, and talk more about them. So we will start with Now Dance 2001 Part 1. So here's Part 1, and, it's grey and white all over, which, The white does pang out nice against the grey, don't get me wrong, but I just think it looks a bit lackluster. You know, it's very dull colours, they don't really pop out much apart from the white. I'm just not a fan of grey, basically. Grey and black like colour schemes, they can pass. You can see it's 2 CDs from the spine there, and it with the little Virgin logo in the bottom left. But of course, we need to look at the all-important track list. Okay, so disc 1, as we've got 2 releases, I'm not going to go through the track list individually, so you'll just have to read it for yourself. I mean, we've got Spice Girls, got Britney Spears, Mojo with Lady Hear Me Tonight is a great song. As you can see, they're already mixing the sort of dance and pop thing again. Look at track 10 there, Robbie Williams, Rock DJ. I wouldn't say that's a dance song per se, it's more of a pop song, so they're really leaning into pop here. You got a bit of Kylie Minogue on there as well, who was really big at the time. Moby, of course, great dance artist. Grace Jones, Pull Up to the Bumper. Big tunes there. Tom Jones and Moose T with Sex Bomb, that was a great remix at the time. And you got Billy Piper finishing off disc 1 with Something Deep Inside. 21 tracks on disc 1, not bad at all. Disc 2, you got Storm, you got Darude with Sandstorm, iconic song of course. York with OTB. Darillion with Silence is an absolutely excellent song, highly recommend that. You've got Element 4 with the Big Brother UK TV theme, because in 2000 Big Brother had just taken off here, and it was a huge success. And to be honest, I don't watch Big Brother nor like it, but the theme, I'm not gonna lie, the theme is an absolute banger. Melanie C, I Turn to You, that's also a great song. You Take My Breath Away by Surreal. CRW with Lovin', like that song too. Watergate, Merry Christmas from Mr. Lawrence, or Heart of Asia, again a brilliant song. And we finish off with True Faith feat. Dub Conspiracy with Freak Like Me. So there's 22 tracks on there. So on this release alone, there is 43 tracks, which is huge. So that is your track list for this first release alone. 43 great tracks. And I mean, it's got to be said, they are really mixing the pop and dance genres now. I think there's no apology. It's not just straight hardcore dance anymore like it was in the early 90s. And I know I'm personally fine with that. I know a lot of people aren't. I know a lot of people want the Now Dance albums to be strictly dance music. And you could argue it's subjective what constitutes as a dance song. I mean, there's probably songs I've mentioned here that are pop songs that you could argue are dance songs, but they're really starting to mix things up. Looking inside, there is disc 1. It's sort of grey with the black title. I mean, the title's readable, and I like that it's not overly flashy. I actually really like it when these dance album discs are very simplistic, but it's grey again. And CD 2 is also very grey. In a nutshell, though, I think this one's a really strong album. I mean, you've got some just straight up big hits on here. Like, I mean, the fact they've got the Big Brother theme on here, that's a big win for me. You got Sandstorm on here, although I swear Sandstorm was early in 2000, but I could be wrong. You got some Spice Girls, Robbie Williams, Kylie Minogue, and a great list of DJs on here. But again, just going into it, remember this is really a mix of pop and dance on this album. So now let's look at the sequel. So here is the second part, Now Dance 2001 Part 2. And first of all, this cover is much better. It has the same font, of course, which I'm cool with. White background, but with purple trims. Purple trims on a white background looks gorgeous. It makes this album really pop and stand out, and I'm just really happy they went with this design. I'm also glad how the part 2 at the bottom there isn't like part of the main logo. It's what it needs to be. It's a small part of the case right at the bottom just to catch your attention, just so you know it's a completely different album. So let's have a look at this album's track list. Okay, Rio de Silva, Touch Me, that's a big one. I put a Spell on You's on here. I'll just let you scan down there. Of course, this was quite a good time for dance music, I think, the early 2000s. If you're talking about hardcore dance music. Pop music's debatable, I mean, it's what I grew up with. Whole Again by Atomic Kitten there, which is really pop, although that's a remix, I notice. And Kylie Minogue's back on her again. Alice DJ, who was cranking out big hits at the time. And the finishing one on this is Aurora with My Desire. So that's 22 tracks on disc 1. Let's shimmy on over to disc 2. There you got the Gorillaz on here. They got a big fan base, of course. Fly Away there, big song. Blood is Pumping, Feel the Beat. And this one finishes with Saint Germain and Rose Rouge. I've got to be completely honest, although I really prefer this cover to the part 1, I do think part 1 has a better track list. That's just me personally, of course. I mean, there's less songs on here that, well, A, I know, and that I'm also thinking are synonymous with, like, my experience with dance music and stuff. So, yeah, part 1's got the better track list, I'm afraid. Now, some of you might be out there watching, screaming at me, saying, what are you talking about? This has the best track list ever. But unfortunately, it's not really doing it for me that much. But I'll tell you what is doing it for me, the disc, which is this lovely purple hue with the white text carrying on from the cover. The part 2's nicely just put there, and I think that's a gorgeous disc design. Part 2 is predictably the same colour, but I mean, considering it's this lovely purple hue against the white text, I do not have a problem with that. So stacking these two side by side, which one should you go for? Well, I think I've made my feelings pretty clear. If I had to pick just one of these, I would go with Now Dance 2001 Part 1, but that is primarily for the track list. There's more songs I know, there's more songs that connect with me in terms of dancing or going out to dance. So that's my personal pick. Some of you might prefer Part 2. In terms of availability, these were released on CD, and I think these were released on cassette as well. You might have to double check that. The CDs are dead easy to get. I got each of these for about £1 each off online, second hand, but I mean, you can probably find these in many charity shops and stuff. They're very easy to get your hands on. In terms of whether you should get them, I mean, dance fans will probably do it, but again, remember, really at this point in the Now Dance line, they are crossing over with the mainstream pop charts, whereas in the early 90s it was more about like hardcore dance, maybe stuff you wouldn't see in the charts. Now, it's all about that synergy. Maybe that was done to like help boost the sales of Now Dance, having that pop, that pop recognition. Who knows? I don't mind it as such. Some people might, but just bear in mind you're going to get some pop hits as well as your dance stuff. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. We are indeed going to continue the Now Dance journey, and we have entered the year 2002. And as you can see, like our last episode where we looked at Now Dance 2001, 2002 was heralded by 2 CD releases, not just one. So we have Now Dance 2002 and Now Dance 2002 Part 2. So as always, let's begin with the chronological beginning. Let's take a look at Now Dance 2002 Part 1. So here is the CD, as you can see, and in terms of the cover art, I do actually quite like it. It's a very bold mix of like yellow and orange, and the white text of the logo stands out really well. They're still using this sort of 90s tube design for the Now Dance logo, which I've always liked. I think you guys know this by now. I just think that tubing design is so synonymous with like dance music, especially that era of dance music, the culture of dance music, if you like. So yeah, very striking colour really. But with a strong cover aside, does it have the track list to match? Let's flick on over to the all-important track list and take a look. So as you can see from this first bit, you got Kylie Minogue, Can't Get You Out of My Head. That was a massive, big hit, not just on the dance charts, but the pop charts as well. You've got people like Jamiroquai, Basement Jaxx, people who were popping off back then. 5, oh lordy, 5. DJ Otzi with Hey Baby, which is a remake of an old song, but literally every school disco I went to growing up, Hey Baby was bound to be there. It still gets played a lot now, and it's a pretty decent remake for the dancehall. And Jerry Halliwell with It's Raining Men, her cover's not too bad. I think the original by the Weather Girls is better, but that one is still pretty decent. You got Entrance as well, and Fragma. And looking at the second half of it, you got bands like Blue, who, well, are they around anymore? Blue, I can't remember. Atomic Kitten with their cover version of Eternal Flame, which was originally done by the Bangles. Of course, this is a remix of sorts. You got Victoria Beckham. This was when the Spice Girls were doing all their solo stuff. I mean, you had Jerry Halliwell earlier. Now you've got Victoria Beckham. Was never a fan of her solo stuff, to be honest with you. You got Atomic Kitten again with Whole Again, which I'm pretty sure appeared on the last Now Dance. Was it in Now Dance 2001? I could be wrong. I just remember seeing that, but that is a remix of it. Lovers in the Air, nice, good banger. DJ Otzi's on it again with Do Wah Diddy, not too familiar with that one. And this one finishes off with Backyard Dog and Baddest Roughest. So a 21-track extravaganza on disc 1. Moving over to disc 2, you've got the Gorillaz, you've got Jean Jacques Smoothie, you've got Daft Punk, great guys there, Planet Funk, Chocolate Puma, Party 1 versus In Excess, that's a nice mix there. Kellis, who is again becoming big at this time. Fatboy Slim, who was having hit after hit after hit. The Chemical Brothers, again, Silicon Soul. And then on the second half, you got Raven Maze, you got Trisco, Dirty Vegas. I must admit, there's not that much I'm recognizing on CD2. Maybe this is the more like dance-heavy stuff, less of like the pop integration. Because bear in mind, guys, in 2002, I was 6. So I wasn't into hardcore dance at that point. Although looking at the copyright information, this actually came out in 2001. So they're following that style where this release was probably issued to stores late in 2001 to usher in 2002. So a pretty solid track list. Again, like I said, I'm more familiar with Disc 1 than I am with Disc 2, which sometimes happens, so I think it's that familiarity you've got to bear in mind when you pick this up. But let's crack open this disc, shall we? So as you can see, it's a plain orange disc with the logo on the left and the
disc number on the right. And I've always been a fan of these more plain disc designs, and disc 2 is the same, as you can see. And you can see in the middle, they've gone for the cover art, but without the logo, which is pretty standard on a lot of these Now Dance releases and a lot of Now albums in general. So that, in a brief summary, is Now Dance 2002 Part 1. It's a decent album, but again, for me, it's definitely not one of the best, considering the vast majority of tracks on disc 2 I don't really recognise. And again, that's just probably preference or knowledge, but the tracks on disc 1 that I do recognise are absolute smash hits. But that's the first part of Now Dance 2002. We now have to move on to the second release. So here it is, the second release, Now Dance 2002 Part 2. And looking at this cover, this is a lovely cover. I've always been a big fan of blue. It's one of my favourite colours. And this is just a gorgeous cover design. A nice mix of darker tones of blue and lighter tones of blue. You can see the little dotted design in the background, which is continuing on from the first part. So a nice bit of continuity there. The white colour of the logo is just popping out here. Again, using that tube design, just slanted a different way. But I absolutely love this. This is definitely one of my favourite covers from the Now Dance series. The part 2 is nice that it's small and it's in the corner, but I think if that wasn't there, that would be even better. But yeah, this is just a really gorgeous cover. I like that. But now let's flick over to the all-important track list. And wow, look at this. They have actually changed the way they list the tracks. No longer 2 columns. Now you've almost got this sort of paragraph style, which I think I've always preferred the columns. But saying that, for my camera, it's actually better. So let's have a look. CD1. You've got DB Boulevard, Kylie Minogue again with In Your Eyes, Sophie Ellis-Bextor with Murder on the Dance Floor, classic tune. I forgot how early that was in terms of being 2002. Jamiroquai, Alcazar with Crying at the Discotheque. That's a great song, like the last remnants of 90s Eurodance, I think. And also, funnily enough, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, Murder on the Dance Floor woman herself, has just done a cover of Crying at the Discotheque. I think I prefer the Alcazar original, but it's funny that she decided to remake that. But you got A1, who were big at the time, Smoke 27, Lasago, a lot of good artists on here. Jerry Halliwell's there again, Flip and Phil, you start to see them appear a few times as well. DJ Alligator, and finishing with Leanne Rimes with But I Do Love You. I must admit, not as many tracks I recognise on Part 2 as I did on Part 1, or Disc 1 of Part 1, which is a shame, but to me this seems to be, I can't tell if this is mainly still like pop chart music or if they are straying more into dance territory, but Crying at the Discotheque and Murder on the Dance Floor, big bangers in their own right. CD2 now, you've got Daniel Bedingfield, gotta get through this, that's a classic one. Aliyah with More Than a Woman, you've got Addicted to Bass by Pure Tone, that was a big hit at the time, I remember that. Jennifer Lopez is on here. Blue, they're still going strong. You got Daft Punk again, Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, one of the most iconic songs, arguably made more famous when Kanye would adapt it a few years later. Basement Jaxx, Where's Your Head At? I think we all know that one, especially here in the UK. And we're finishing this one with Oris J. Parts Del Cena with Trippin', not really familiar with that one. Again, not as many tracks I recognise on here, but still, the ones I do recognise are absolutely solid hits. But I'll give my final recommendations in a minute. Let's crack this bad boy open and have a look at the disc. And now this is a disc design I can get behind. Just a nice white disc with the text being the colour matching the logos, in this case blue. CD1 being nice and strong. And I actually like that the Now Dance 2002 part isn't the main logo that you see on the front. I find it nice just having it as ordinary text here. So yeah, and it's the same for disc 2 as you can see. So yeah, this is a disc design I can get behind. And unlike the first part, when you look at the middle picture there, they've actually just left the logo on. They haven't taken it off. I wondered why they decided to do that and change that sort of established tradition, but hey, it's there. So yeah, Now Dance 2002 Part 2 again, I'm recognising less and less, but some really solid hits on this one. So when you compare both albums, which one reigns superior, it's a really tough call for me personally, because I'd argue overall I recognise less on Part 2, but the ones I do recognise are probably my favourites compared to Part 1. I'd have to say Part 1 for value, though. There's probably just a bit more on there for me that I could get behind. Obviously, in terms for you guys, I mean, yes, if you collect this stuff, then you're going to pick it up. But in terms of dance music, if you like that early 2000s, like pop and dance mix, then I think you'll like both of these albums. You can get them on CD for dirt cheap. I got both of these for less than £1 each off Music Magpie, but you can probably get them in CEX or charity shops. They're very widely available. I don't think these got cassette releases. I think this is when they stopped. Please, anyone correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Now Dance series continued on to cassette at this point. So you're really only going to get these on CD.
They've probably moved them to download as well. Surely they must have done. But yeah, CD's your best bet. Hello everybody, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And today we continue the Now Dance journey by looking at Now Dance 2003. And as you can clearly see, just like Now Dance 2001 and 2002 before it, there are indeed 2 releases that make up this year, and we will be taking a look at both of them. So we will start, as we always do, chronologically. So let's have a look at Now Dance 2003 Part 1. As we can see from the cover, this has decided to go for a nice green hue, and I like how they've sort of gone with the primary colours both last year and this year. If you remember last year, the primary colours were sort of yellowy orange mixed with all different sorts of blue. It was a really nice effect. And here they've decided to go with a beautiful shade of green. I'm not normally a fan of green, but I actually do like this one. This looks really nice. They've kept that nice tube design that they started in the 90s. It mainly reminds me of the 90s, but it does work in the early 2000s as well. It's quite synonymous. Yeah, very simple cover, but indeed very effective. So flipping over to that all-important track list, what do we have? They're continuing the paragraph design that they started the previous year, which for me at least is easier to read. You got Atomic Kitten with their version of The Time Is High, great version. You got Kylie Minogue on here, Liberty X, Liam Rhymes. A lot of artists who sadly aren't making hits these days. I mean, Kylie Minogue still is, arguably. Blue are on here like they were last year. You've got ATC with Around the World. Now, to my knowledge, I think that came out in 2000. Maybe it really hit over here in 2002, which is when this came out, actually. This is continuing the release where Part 1 of the year came out the previous year, so this case 2002, and then Part 2 is 2003. But ATC Around the World is a fantastic Eurodance track. I love it. I love it. It's one of my favourites. Atomic Kitten on it again, actually. 2 tracks on here. That's interesting. Mooney, David Guetta. Yeah, that's right. David Guetta was making hit songs as far back as 2002. A lot of people think he sort of came around in 2008-9, you know, with his like big hits that he had with his collaborations, but he's been making hits since the early 2000s. This one finishes with Cosmos with Take Me With You, so 22 tracks on CD1. Moving down to CD2, kicking off with Scooter, who was a big name in the dance scene in the 2000s. You've got Milk Inc. You've got Flip and Phil with Shooting Star, which is actually a big favourite song of mine. It's like typical 2000s dance trash, but I do love it, so definitely give that a listen if you haven't heard it. You've got Trinity X, a lot of X's, isn't there? Entrance are on here, Milk Inc. again, second track on there. Lasago also get 2 tracks there, Dreamcatcher, Solid Sessions, DJ Quicksilver, and finishing with the DJ Alligator Project with Lollipop. Now, I'd argue, to my knowledge, CD2 I recognise a lot less. CD2 seems to be more dance-heavy artists, less than the pop charts. The poppy stuff seems to be confined to CD1, and I think in terms of integration, that works a lot better. They have been doing it for the past few years, a mix of pop and hardcore dance, but it was always sort of mashed together. It wasn't really consistent. I prefer that much better if CD1, say, is your pop-infused dance stuff, and then CD2 is your pure hardcore dance stuff. But yeah, in terms of the track list, it's alright. Again, it's all down to personal preference. I don't recognise a lot of the stuff on CD2. CD1 is more my jam. But again, the hits on here are really banging, the ones I recognise. I mean, Around the World by ATC or Shooting Star by Flip and Phil. Some really classic stuff. But before we talk more about that, let's open up this bad boy. And as you can see, here is the disc. It's continuing the style that we started to see last year, sort of this predominantly white disc, and the Now Dance is just text. But it's in that same font style, and it's also the colour of the front. And I really like this. It's a fabulous design, and as you can see, CD2 is also the same. And also, it's this middle picture thing again. There used to be the tradition that you'd show the middle picture without the logo, although starting last year and continuing, you do in fact see the logo here again. I don't mind it per se. It's always nice to see the background without the logo, but it is what it is. So yeah, that's mainly part 1 of Now Dance 2003. For what it is, again, the songs I recognise are really good, and if they're moving more into really organising the pop and dance tracks on here, then it's a definite good start. But now let's move on to part 2. So here is Now Dance 2003 part 2. We're gone for a lovely red hue here. This is a really great cover design. Obviously, it's the same font for the text. They've just flipped it on the other angle. It's mainly red, red tube design. I love it. I love it. Red's a gorgeous colour on these albums anyway. So now you've got like 4 primary colours. 2002 had blue and yellow. Now you've got green and red. So when you line them all up, it actually looks really nice. The part 2 is nice in the corner there. Not too jarring at all. Really nice cover design. So let's flip on over to the all-important track list, and thank goodness it's in red because it's even easier for me to read. You've got Richard X versus Liberty X. I remember that being a thing at the time. Love Inc. Kylie Minogue's here again. The Cheeky Girls with the Cheeky song, or Touch My Bum, as it's known. Oh, the Cheeky Girls. We all like it for a bit of a laugh, as we do the next song, which is Last Ketchup, with Azaraggi, or just the Ketchup song. If you recognise the title but you can't remember how it goes, just give it a listen. Every school disco I went to as a kid, that was on. Blue is still popping up here and there. DJ Sneak, the Mock Turtles, Moby. Moby was a big dance star, wasn't he? Moloko. Robbie Williams is on here. John Silver. And this one finishes with Lee Cabrera with Shake It. No te muevas tanto, the extended mix. Absolutely. And one I just missed was track 10, which is by the Punjabi MC, the Mundian Tokbach Ke. Again, if you don't know that by the title, listen to it. If you've seen Bend It Like Beckham, you'll know what it is. CD2 now, you're kicking off with Queen and Vanguard with their version of Flash. I really liked this version when it came out in 2003. I know a lot of people either prefer the original or just different versions, but I really like the Vanguard version. You've got Divine Inspiration, Atomic Kitten again. It's mad how often Atomic Kitten were popping up on these albums back in the day. Flip and Phil with I Want to Dance with Somebody. Not as good as Shooting Star, but it's there. Sash is on here, a big name in dance at the time. DJ Quicksilver as well. Jam Wayne. You've got Slipmat, Alex Gold, that's a name I saw a few times. And finishing with Lange Feet Leah with Don't Think It, Feel It. So 23 tracks there for a 44 track album. This came out in 2003. And yeah, I recognise a whole lot more on part 2 than I did on part 1. Maybe it's because I was getting older, I was taking more notice of songs of all different types of genres. Really stellar track list here. We'll talk more about the track list in a moment. Let's crack it open. And as you can see, I've left CD2 at the front instead of CD1. I best fix that. But yeah, it's the same sort of design as Now Dance 2003 Part 1. I really like this minimalist design for the Now Dance series. I wouldn't like this for the mainline entries and other spin-offs, but I don't know, for Now Dance, it just works. It really does work. And CD1 on the other side is the same. And you've got the middle picture with the logo. Wish they'd taken it out, but beggars can't be choosers. Now, this is interesting. On the back of the booklet, Now Dance featuring ringtones. Who remembers ringtones? So, for anyone who's a bit young, doesn't know, mobile phones were really kicking off in the early 2000s in quite a big way. And, of course, when you get a phone call or a text message, a ringtone popped out. And at first, they were just like stock things the companies provided, but then they found a way to make songs your ringtone or parts of songs. So what you'd find in a lot of CDs from, I'd say, 2003 to like 2007 or 8, this was quite common, having codes you could text, usually for an extortionate price, and you could get part of the song as your ringtone. And it seems like all the tracks are covered here, both mono codes and poly ringtones. I think that's a sound difference sort of thing. And I hate they've tried to go for text speed. Look at this. You can either text to receive direct to your Mobi or call the Now Dance ringtone service. Okay. One, who called it a Mobi? I grew up in that generation. I never called it a Mobi. It was just your mobile, your phone. I've never heard it called a Mobi. It sounds so stupid. Ringtones are such a thing of the past. These were often quite pricey back in the day. If I remember on some releases, you'd be paying like £1 for a ringtone. It was great economy for them. And you can't see it, but I'm looking in the booklet. It says text cost a maximum of £1.50 per message, and each ringtone costs 2 messages. Total cost of £3. So you were paying £3 to get a 5-second ringtone for your phone. Absolutely extortionate, but hey, that was what it was like back in the day. So that is Now Dance 2003 Part 2, and overall, yeah, again, decent release. I recognise a lot more on the whole than I did in Part 1. Some really great tracks on here, whether they're novelty or just genuine dance tracks. Really like this release. So when stacking up the two, I think it's pretty obvious that Now Dance 2003 Part 2 is my favourite album out of the two, purely just because I recognise more. I think the quality of hits is there. In terms of if it's for you, as always with these, look at what's on there. If you enjoy music of the early 2000s, if you enjoy a mix of pop and dance, then these albums are going to be for you. If that's not your thing, stay well away. I believe at this point they weren't releasing the Now Dance series on cassette anymore. The only way you could get them on release was CD. I don't think downloads had taken off yet. I think you can get it as a download now, but really you were going to get them on CD. It's still dead easy to get these on CD. Like a lot of the Now Dance releases, I paid less than £1 each for these two, so they're pretty accessible if you want to complete your Now Dance collection. Hi there everybody, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And of course, we will be continuing the ever-present Now Dance journey by taking a look at the two releases that made up the year 2004. And as you can probably tell, there's a bit of a big difference with these two albums, that being their titles. Instead of being Part 1 and Part 2, you have Now Dance 2004 and Now Dance, 41 brand new dance hits. The reason why I lumber it in with 2004 is because, well, that was the year it was released. They're continuing the pattern of Part 1 being released the year before, so that is 2003, and that's 2004. We'll look at both of these albums individually, of course, so we will start with the first one, which is simply titled Now Dance 2004. So as you can see from the cover, they are yet again continuing the trend of the tube writing, that 90s tube writing that I do adore so much, to be honest. And instead of one singular primary colour as the background, as it was for 2002 and 2003, we've gone for multicolours, a sort of weird rainbow effect, but without the green. So you've got your yellows and your reds and oranges and pinks and blues and purples. And I must admit, it all looks quite lavish. It would have been cool if it had gone for the full rainbow effect, added like a little green in there as well, but for what it is, it does look quite nice, and it's the design I can definitely get behind. So let's flick on over to that all-important track list, of course, and see what we have on here. This is 2 CDs, as always. Okay, so CD 1, you have Ultra Beat of DJ Sammy, The Boys of Summer. What an excellent song that was back in the day. Danny Minogue's on here, having some of her hits. Benny Benassi. Satisfaction was such a big hit back in the day, wasn't it? Yes, all those great hits. This is 2003, of course, this was released, despite carrying the moniker of 2004. Melanie C's on here. Yeah, so that's CD 1, 22 tracks in total. I must admit, it's another one of those cases where the songs that I do recognise, I really recognise, and I think they're really banging tunes. Like, my favourite on here is probably track 2, which is DJ Sammy, The Boys of Summer. I do love the original by Don Henley, which was an 80s tune, of course, but to be honest, that remix from 2003 is sublime. And after 22 tracks of CD 1, we have CD number 2. Liberty X is still kicking it in 2003. Justin Timberlake with Cry Me a River, although I can see that is a remix. David Guetta makes an appearance once again. As I said in the last Now review, a lot of people think David Guetta sort of started, 2008-9, but he actually got, well, on albums like this in the early 2000s. The Chemical Brothers are on here as well, finishing with Richard X feat. Kellis. That's another 20 tracks on there, making up 42 tracks on this double album. And again, with CD2, there's a lot I don't recognise. I mean, bear in mind at this point I was only 7 years old, so I wasn't into like the hardcore dance scene. It was only really what was going up on the pop charts. So some of it I do recognise, but I think, again, they're pushing with this direction. Even though they've got like a popness to it, they're really leaning back to like more hardcore dance stuff, which I think a lot of dance fans would have appreciated back in the day. So I don't really have much more to say on this one, Now Dance 2004. In a way, it's sort of more of what we were getting with the previous 2 years, so Now Dance 2002 and Now Dance 2003. Sort of leaning less away from like more of a pop influence from the late 90s and more into hardcore or more like niche dance territory, I'd say. And don't get me wrong, I love that hardcore like dance specific stuff. It's a great genre, it's one of my favourites for sure. But I think that was the direction they were leaning more towards as the 2000s progressed. But that, of course, is just half of the journey. We now must look at the other album that abandons the part 2 and goes for a completely different title indeed. And that album is, of course, this. Now Dance, 41 brand new dance hits. I am really confused as to why they dropped the year 2004, even dropped a part 2, and just went with this, because, I mean, they've been so consistent all the way back from, well, the 1980s when the dance line started. This is like the first major time it broke away without giving us a concrete number. At least I think I'm remembering that right. All the others had at least a number to them. But 41 brand new dance hits. Maybe they were trying to do it as like a reboot. Maybe the part 2s of the past few years weren't selling as well. So they thought, well, if we don't call it part 2, it might do better. We'll have to find out. But first, the cover. It's gone for like this really pristine like club floor. If you look at the word dance, there's a reflection underneath it on the floor there, this orange floor. Orange is a nice colour and all. I mean, it's very orange. They still kept the tube design, so I'm all for that. They've kept that tube design. But I don't know how I feel about this one. I think the Now Dance 2004 cover is better, in my personal opinion. But I think it's all in the eye of the beholder. But yeah, there's just a bit too much orange for me on this one. But let's flick this one over to its all-important track list and see what we have on this one. So 41 brand new dance hits. Kylie Minogue's up there. Excellent. And Kellis with Milkshake, of course. Who doesn't forget Milkshake? One of the most iconic songs from the era. Blue is still making appearances. Justin Timberlake with Rock Your Body, which is quite interesting because Rock Your Body came out, I believe, in 2002. So the fact it was getting remixed and put on albums like this in 2004 had a good shelf life. I mean, it still does. Liberty X are here. Atomic Kitten are here as well, who were mainstays on the Now Dance albums, it seems. and finishes with MC Jig and the Cha-Cha Slide. The Cha-Cha Slide. Now, I don't think that's the Cha-Cha Slide everyone knows, of course. If you listen to the Cha-Cha Slide that gets played all the time, it says the Casper Slide Part 2. This Cha-Cha Slide could very well be the original. I have heard the original Cha-Cha Slide. It's not as good, so it might be that version. But yeah, it's definitely on here. Come on, we all love the Cha-Cha Slide. And now moving on to CD2, you have LMC versus U2. Quite an interesting combination there. Ultrabeat are on here. Tiesto, of course, who is in a way one of the biggest names in like dance and trance music. And Kylie Minogue closes off this album just as she opens it. I think that's quite a nice symmetry that the same artist who opened this album also be the one to close it. And of course, Kylie Minogue, I think people forget how like big Kylie Minogue was. So that is the track list for this album. I mean, at the time they were all brand new dance hits, I'm sure. And again, like part one, there's a lot of them I do recognise, but then equally a lot of them I don't recognise as much. So it really is a pick your preference. One thing I realise we haven't done yet is take a look at the disc design of these albums. So if you allow me, I will have a look at what these discs look like. Okay, so here's CD1 of Now Dance 2004. Love again that minimalist design, just a white CD with pink text. And look! Get your ringtones, everybody. Like I said in the last review, ringtones were so big back in the day and very expensive as well. And there is CD2, all the same. And that is just advertising your ringtones again. Your mono, and polyphonic ringtones. And now let's have a look at the 41 brand new dance hits on CD. So the same design, very minimalist. I like it. And this one, interestingly, just says Now Dance. There's no year subtitle or anything like that. So yeah, this really does seem like they were going for some sort of reboot. Once more, it's all about the ringtones. Get them on your phone, either mono or polyphonic. Can't get that word out. And here is CD2. More of the same, just Now Dance, and more information about how to get those pesky ringtones. So that, in a nutshell, is your two Now Dance albums for the year 2004. And to be honest, it's hard for me to place these ones because, again, I think for me, at least, it comes across more of the same as the releases from 2002 and 2003, leaning more into the actual dance scene, which, you know, if you're a fan of it, you're going to love it. So if you're a fan of, like, 2000s dance, like the stuff that was really coming out in the dance clubs, you'll love it. There is a bit of pop in there as well, but I think as we go forward, we are leaning more in towards that dance scene. In terms of availability, I believe initially this was only available on CD. I mean, both of these I picked up for less than £1. You can see this trend happening by now. They're very easy to pick up on CD still. I believe you can download them as well if you so choose. But there was no other format alternatives. There was no cassette release and certainly no vinyl release. So yeah, my verdict is, again, if you're really into 2000s dance, you'll love it. But if you're expecting, when it says dance, to be a summary of the pop charts 2004, you need to avoid it. You need the mainline numbered series for that.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another episode of the Now Review. And for today's instalment, we're going to be taking a look at a theme that we sort of addressed on this show before, but I recently picked up this album and it's the Now Review, so best place to talk about it. So, from 2005, this is Now, the very best of dance. So, keen viewers of this series will know I did a dance review a couple of months ago. That was just called Now That's What I Call Dance Hits. And aside from this, there are still many other dance albums. There's another very best of dance, I think. There's dance albums that are on vinyl back to the 80s and 90s and then going into the early 2000s. So Now's had a long history with dance, so it only made sense for them to put up an album just like this. So let's have a look. It's got that little 3 CDs moniker. It's in a fat box. I love a fat box. The cover's nice, you know, just this was the sort of standard font they were using for the dance albums at the time. I think they were still making them in 2005. Here is the spine. Music from EMI, the very best of Now Dance, and the all-important track list. So, on disc 1, bear in mind this came out in 2005, this is all like your recent stuff, so early 2000s. Very good stuff here, actually. A lot of stuff I grew up with, of course. Finishing off with MVP and Rock Your Body, Mic Check 1, 2. Great song there. Disc 2, you're going back into the late 80s, early 90s. This is a really great disc. I mean, Black Box Ride on Time, Rhythm of the Night, What Is Love, It's My Life. There were so many great dance songs in the 90s that I think people have just forgotten about. And it finishes with a very familiar song, Rhythm as a Dancer. It's also got the Erasure version of Take a Chance on Me, which of course is a cover of ABBA that did really well. And disc 3 is again more 90s, early 2000s sort of stuff, and some 80s as well.
Good Life by Inner City is a really good one. People don't remember now. Finishing with DJ Jurgen, Parts, Alice DJ, Better Off Alone. So, a lot of great dance songs on here. And there's about, 23, 44. So there's 64 songs on here. Sorry, I keep yawning. 64 songs on here, which is really impressive roster. I'll talk more about the track list in a bit. Let's open up. There's disc 1, which I do actually like this style without the main logo there. It feels very, 90s in a way, just the very best of Now Dance. CD 1. We'll come back to that booklet a little later. Let's open up. CD 2 is a more sort of pink style. It doesn't pick up the colour that much. And then purple for disc 3. Very nice though against the white there. So let's open that back up. Now let's take a peek inside the leaflet. So very best of Now Dance, of course. Opening that up. Just basic information about the songs as you'd expect. Now the very best of dance. Oh, this is for your ringtones. So anyone who's a bit too young to remember, you'd text in and you'd essentially get a ringtone, and they were very expensive if I remember rightly. There's the ones for CD 2 and CD 3. They can't do that now. Get your own Now Dance ringtones here. Say dance. See inside booklet. Make poverty history once again. Nice that they put that on there. So yeah, and this, what's that say? To find legal downloads. Oh, because 2005, the internet was on the rise, and illegal downloads off Pirate Bay and other such things were rife, or LimeWire, etc. But anyway, so the track list on here, right? So in terms of dance music, this is like pinnacle dance music. Some of the best tracks of the 90s, some of the great stuff of the early 2000s on here as well. It's not necessarily dance music, it's pop, but very danceable, whereas these are true dance hits, a lot of them. And all I'll say is, if you in any way adore dance music, then this is a brilliant album to pick up. I know some of the later releases tend to focus on just more modern hits, like in the 2010s, which I think personally has not been the best era for dance music. So if you're a dance fanatic and you just really want something like this, which explores sort of the history of dance music, then this is a very worthy purchase. You can't buy it new, obviously. This came out nearly 15 years ago. You can pick it up secondhand, as I did. It was a couple of pounds, or as usual, places like Music Magpie are a great resource for you to find stuff like this. I know there are other dance albums. As I said, I'll be looking to review those in the future. I just don't own them yet. But I did want to take a look at this one, just to sort of show you guys that how dance albums with Now have evolved through the ages. And I have done a video on the early Now Dance stuff on vinyl from the 80s and 90s. I'll leave a link at the end, you can check that out. But aside from that, if you like dance music and you want 90s, early 2000s stuff, this is the best album in the Now line to go for.
Hello everybody, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And this time we're continuing the Now Dance journey by taking a look at this release, Now Dance 2007. Now, before you Now aficionados say it, there is an album that was released in 2005, I believe titled Now the Very Best of Dance. However, I have actually reviewed that already here on the Now Review, funnily enough. I reviewed that some time ago, actually. So if you follow the card link that should be in this video, you can go and watch that installment. So I thought, since I've already reviewed it, I'll skip straight on to this release. So we've jumped forward a few years. As I say, there was a release in 2005. The last one you would have watched would have been 2004. And this, even though it says 2007, actually came out in the year 2006. So still technically continuing the yearly tradition. And there's only one release this time. They abandoned the two-part release strategy. So now we're really going with, we're releasing it in the year, but the title of the album is for the following year. So even though it says 2007, this really is sort of the best of 2006 dance, if you like. I never like that titling structure. I think the numbers should represent the year, that it comes out in, but that's by the by. But let's look at this cover. Look at this. Lots of blue dots, black background. They're still keeping the tube design, so big fan of that on the font. And you know what? I actually like this black background, blue dots sort of approach. I think it's really cool. Yes, it's very, techno and very of its time, but I think it's got a big charm to it. You wouldn't miss this cover out in the shops, would you? I really like it. I mean, blue's one of my favourite colours, and you got the white of the logo mixed with the black of the background. Very good, very sublime, very great cover. But of course, we must now flick on over to the all-important track list, and we shall see what is on here.
So, Now Dance 2007, you've got Rock This Party by Bob Sinclair. That was a really big song back in the day. Somebody's Watching Me, the Beat Freaks version of the Rockwell classic from the 80s. David Guetta pops up again, Love Don't Let Me Go, great song. You might not know the title, but trust me, give it a listen, you'll know exactly what it is. Lots of songs. There's Horny as a Dandy's on here, track number 9. It's quite risque for an album, wouldn't you say, I think? Call on Me by Eric Prydz, again, one of the biggest hits of the mid-2000s, I'd say. That was everywhere. And we finish with Lily Allen with a remix of LDN. She was starting to be up and coming at this point. So yeah, 22 tracks on this album. I recognise a lot more of this. I mean, again, when this came out, I was 11, becoming a bit more aware of the music scene in general. And I think there's, again, more of a pop leaning on this CD1, I'd argue. A lot of those songs I recognise were in the pop charts, and they probably crossed over from the dance charts as well. There are some songs on here that arguably are more of like the dance genre, but yeah, more of a pop dance balance, if you ask me. And now we move on to disc 2. You got the Loves on here. Say Say Say, Waiting For You. That was a good adaptation of the Say 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 song with Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. Tell Me Why is on here as well. Again, a great adaptation of part of a Bronski Beat song. This really was the era 2005-6 of like using samples from classic songs in like dance remixes, and a lot of them were absolute bangers. A lot of them I really enjoyed. Lola's themes on here, track number 12, if you can see that there. Yes, lots and lots of great songs on here. Lots of songs, actually. That's 23 tracks. So this album actually has 45 tracks on it across 2 CDs. A very impressive roster, especially back then in 2006/7. So once again, that is your track list. And in my opinion, I'd argue there is more of a, how shall I put it, like a more of a pop dance balance than there was in the 2004 releases, would I say, which in my opinion were more leaning towards dance, which makes sense. This is called Now Dance after all. However, we shall now flip this on back around, take one more look at that gorgeous cover, and I will pop this open for you so we can see what the discs look like. Alright, so there is CD1, sort of keeping the minimalism from the previous ones, you know, just the text there in CD1. I always like that design template for it, and it's got the nice blue text. What I don't like is, you can probably see it, the disc is very reflective. It's not one solid colour, so reflective you can see me in it. Hello. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of the reflective design, to be honest, but look what's over here. Now Dance 2007 on your mobile. Visit the Now WAP site for real tones, games, exclusive competitions, and lots more. Text Now WAP to this number. You look at that Nokia, man. That Nokia was in colour. That phone was advanced back in the day, I'm telling you. Isn't it mad to think that literally 13, 14 years ago, which isn't that long, phones looked like this and were that small? That keypad, man. Oh, if you mastered the keypad, you were living the dream. I mastered the keypad back in the day. Just for reference, here is CD2, which has the same design, but the text is more of a navy blue. And look at this. Now that's what I call a quiz. Bigger, better, faster than ever. Oh, now it's what I call a quiz too. This was a DVD game. DVD games were all the rage back in the mid-2000s, weren't they? And it's out on the 4th of December 2006, which makes me think this album came out towards the end of the year, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to call it the next year along from when it was released, it kind of makes sense that you put this out towards the end of the previous year. So that, in a nutshell, is Now Dance 2007. Is it the greatest dance album of the line? Well, not for me. I think one of my, my previous favourites I've mentioned before, Still Take the Rain, but this is probably one of my favourites so far of the 2000s lineup. I mean, there's a lot more songs I recognise on here. There's a greater strike between pop and dance, in my opinion. But again, it is all down to that preference. If you loved what dance music sounded like in 2006, all those samples, then you'll love this. However, if you aren't a fan of that stuff, stay well away. In terms of picking this up, this was released on CD, and I'm sure at the time it was released on download, maybe. I mean, you can get it on your mobile, so you can pick it up on CD for less than £1, as I did, less than one whole British pound, which is really great for collector purposes or reviewing purposes in my case. Or you can download it as well, and that, in a nutshell, is Now Dance 2007. Hello there everybody, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back once again to another instalment of the Now Review. And we're continuing the Now Dance journey by taking a look at this album, Now Dance 2008, and I'm sure you probably guessed it, actually released in the late of 2007. It was continuing that tradition of numbering an album the year after it was released, which, okay, fair enough, but let's look at that cover. They're still keeping that tube design. The tube design lives on from the 1990s, and I love it. This really is the perfect font, in my opinion, for Now Dance-related albums. And the cover, I mean, it's a sort of a blend of pink and orange, and it looks fine, but it just, I don't know what it is. It just seems very uncoordinated. There's no proper, like, link to it. There's no through line through it, if that makes sense. It just seems very all over the place. The colours are nice, but I would have, like, appreciated a bit more direction. But, you know, that's by the by. Not the best cover. We've got that out of the way. But it's not all about the front cover. It makes a good impression, but of course it is all about that all-important track list, which is what we have here. So let's delve into Now Dance 2008. Okay, so With Every Heartbeat by Robin kicking off. What a great song. One of the great songs of the 2000s. David Guetta with Love Is Gone. I'd say that was the first one me and my friends really knew of David Guetta. And it's a really good song as well. Highly recommend you listen to it if you haven't. The Girls is on here by Calvin Harris. A really early song for him. I mean, Calvin Harris is a household name now. Everyone sort of knows who he is. He's had hit after hit. But humble beginnings, man. Humble beginnings. I Found You is on here. That's also a great song in my opinion. Last Night a DJ Saved My Life. Yes, and Mika's on here with Grace Kelly, another great song. Let's Dance by High Tide, again following from their success the year previous when they sampled Say Say Say. So there you go, 22 tracks on disc 1. I hope you've had a good look at all those tracks there. Pick any of your favourites. For now, we shall move down onto disc number 2. Okay, Proper Education by Eric Prydz, which is Using Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd. And again, a great song if you ask me. If you haven't heard it, I'd highly recommend you listen to that. You've got some Mark Ronson on here as well. Okay. I Can't Stop Moving by Sonny J. I love that song. That's such a... It's a very, like, feel-good song. Like, go and listen to Can't Stop Moving. That's track number 13 on there, on the third column. Really great song. And the finishing track, Tiesto, with a Digio for strings. Anyone who doesn't know that title, it's one of those really sad pieces of instrumental music you hear a lot. It was used in the film Platoon. It was, I think, played at President Kennedy's funeral back in the 60s. But it's a dance version, and it's really cool. Like, it's really, really cool. So, if you want to hear something completely out of this world, definitely give the final track on disc 2 a listen. Now, if you remember from the last Now review of Now Dance 2007, I praised that for being more of an equal balance between pop and dance. However, this, I'd argue, leans more back into the pure dance territory, sort of like the Now 2004 releases did. And that's not necessarily a problem. I mean, these albums are considered now dance after all, you know, dance music. But I'd always argue if you're not that into dance music, or if you prefer the pop stuff specifically, then you'll enjoy that more, arguably. Let's twizzle you back around, and if you allow me a jump cut, I will crack this open and show you what's inside. So there is CD1 following that simple design, but with pink text, and again, very reflective like last year's. Hello, you can see me and my camera there. I don't like this reflective design at all, but I mean, I'll show you CD2 and it'll be more of the same. But before I do that, look at this. It's back again. Now Dance 2008 on your mobile. Text WAP, because it was the WAP file site. And they're using the same Nokia. So even, you know, you're saying phones are always upgrading year after year. I think phones took a little bit longer to upgrade back in the day using that same Nokia. Yeah, I mean, at this point, 2007, late 2007, I had my first mobile phone. I had a flip Motorola because, you know, I was a cool kid. But I wouldn't dream of downloading things. Things cost a bomb back in the day. Purely for reference, there is CD2, more of the same. And look, this feature returns after a few years. The idea of having the front cover without the logo. That hasn't been done for quite a few years in the Now Dance series. And again, this just highlights this cover. This is literally just a mishmash of colours and white lines. Like, where was the direction here? What was the idea? What was the feeling behind it? It's just a bit all over the place, quite frankly. Before I give my final recommendations and where you can pick this sort of thing up, I do want to show you something that was also included within the package itself. It was this little postcard here, which says business reply, Now Dance 2008, you were meant to send this back. This was a competition to win 50 CDs, music from EMI. Which of the following magazines do you read? You can see there's a whole list of them down there. I mean, there's tons, you got everything. I mean, it's mainly, from what I can see, it's mainly like music magazines, but they've got a variety as well. And you got newspapers down there as well. God, what newspaper do you read? If you read The Sun, well, if you read The Sun, you do yourself a favour and stop reading it. And then you've got all this questionnaire to fill out. And the expiry date's probably gone, but I just found that interesting that was included in here. So, final thoughts on Now Dance 2008. Well, as I've said with the past few releases, if you like 2000s dance music specifically, you will adore this. I mean, it was a good time to be a dance fan in the 2000s, I'd argue, and this album shows no different. We are moving towards the end of the first decade of the 2000s, of course, where things started to change rapidly, sort of 2009, I'd argue. But if you're not into 2000s music, if you think it's modern day trash, then you will not enjoy this album. But if you do want to pick it up, at the time it was released on CD and download, you can get it on CD now for less than £1, like all of the Now dances in the 90s and 2000s I've been finding. You can get it less than £1, usually places like Music Magpie or eBay, somewhere like that. And again, not the best dance album in the world. I think my picks from the 90s still take precedent here, but again, like a lot of these Now dance albums, the songs on here that I recognise personally and that I remember from my childhood are really solid bangers and deserve to be on there. Hello there guys, it's Adam Martyn here and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. And we're continuing our Now dance journey by taking a look at this. We're really breaking away from the year releases now, or at least in terms of the number, because we're going to be taking a look at this album, Now Dance Anthems. Now this album was released in the year 2009. The last album we looked at, Now Dance 2008, was released in 2007. So as far as I can tell, we never actually had a release in the Now Dance line for 2008, which is a odd break from tradition, but not something that Now is averse to. They've done it before. But this is a 2009 release, and it's a lot of change. As I say, the number's different. It's on 3 CDs now, see there, instead of 2. This cover's pretty cool. Again, you're keeping the tube theme. That's the one consistent thing. There seems to be consistent since 1997. This tube writing is perfect for the series. In the background, you've got what look to be the like microchips or just blocks of different colours. Lots of blues, purples, pinks and whites. And it does all work. The colour correlation does work. But again, sort of like some of the past albums, I would have liked some sort of more correlation or more of a direct theming, if that makes sense. I'm not quite sure what I mean specifically, but I just know it's not like the perfect cover for me. But we're going to twizzle it round now to the side and notice it's in the fat box style. Yes, we haven't seen one of these in a while. This is, well, it's 3 CDs, so it was likely it's going to be in a box of some kind. This isn't when Now had moved on to the flip open ones yet. We're still in the fat box style. So let's have a look what we got. As this is a 2009 release, of course you're kicking off with one of the biggest hits of the year, which was Holiday by Dizzy Rascal. Still a big tune now, and I actually remember it coming out. I remember it hitting number 1 on iTunes, and I bought it for 79p as it was back in the day. It was all very exciting, and as you can see just by flicking over the track list, it's not just 2009. You've got some songs that actually appeared as recent as the last Now Dance album. They're really going for a sort of retrospective. I particularly like the closing track of CD 1, which is Now You're Gone by Basshunter. Again, a huge hit in 2008, and I guess that's good that this album is packing a lot of hits from 2008, picking up the slack from where there wasn't a release the previous year. But Now You're Gone is a big hit and a big tune for Basshunter as well, so good start for CD1 in my opinion. A lot more recognisable songs, I'd argue, like more dance songs that also crossed over into the pop mainstream as well. There is CDs 2 and 3, and again, you're going for more of the pop/dance retrospective there. I'm sure from where the distance I'm sat, I can't really read the track list from here, but I'm sure your eyes can skim over, and I mean, there's a lot of recognisable songs on there. I'd be very surprised if you looked at all these tracks and didn't recognise at least one song. Again, though, from when I looked before, I think it's going for that more dance songs that definitely crossed over and had some sort of mainstream success. There's very few, should I say, tracks on here that I don't recognise, which means that a lot of it must have entered the mainstream, because I mean, at this time I was very much listening to like mainstream pop chart music. 2009, I was 13 years old. Different times, man. And notice in the bottom corner there, the bottom right, you'll also see the Ministry of Sound logo. And the Ministry of Sound are still pumping out albums, but they always pumped out dance albums of various genres and types. So it's nice to see they've had some sort of collaboration here with this one. So we've got 3 CDs. Let's crack this open and see what we got, shall we? So opening the first side of the fat box, you've got CD1, which is this nice pink disc with the logo on there, which is all silvery and reflective. I've never liked the reflective surfaces, I think you'll know that by now, but the disc colour's nice. You've also got the little booklet, and available now on a very old-fashioned looking iPhone or iPod, that could be. It's the Now That's What I Call quiz. So they'd moved away from DVD games and now we're going into apps. Apps, I believe, had launched in 2008, so this was only a year old. I never had this app, but I did have an iPod Touch, and let me tell you, back then, 2009, it was like you had, I don't know, it's like you had the future in your hands, you know? And here's opening the second side of the fat box. You have CD2 and CD3. More of the same in terms of the reflective logos, but you've got a nice purple and a nice blue colour. So yeah, they're really evoking the colours of the cover out there, which is always nice. I like it when the colours are at least somewhat consistent with the cover rather than wildly different. So as disc designs go, yeah, bit standard, but not bad. You can see they've abandoned ringtones. We'd long gone by then. And, I mean, in conclusion, who is this for? Well, 2009, I always see, having grown up through it, is a very, like, turning point time in music where the pop charts started producing banger hits that crossed into several different charts. You could argue that's always happened in music, but for me, at least in 2009, I felt that more than ever. And as I said, this is more of a retrospective. It's not aligned to the year it came out in. There are 2009 songs on there, but there's a lot of, like, 2000 stuff, some 90s stuff, and it's always good to have a mix, especially on these 3-disc albums. Now, I mean, you really need to delve into the tracklist on this one. Like, if you like 90s music but not 2000s dance music, you might have to do some weighing up, think, oh, is this worth the purchase or not? If you like it all, you'll snap it up easily. This was released on CD and download, and, I mean, again, the CD, dirt cheap. Even though it's 3 discs, I paid under £1 for this album, so you can find it really easily. It won't set you back too much money whatsoever. It's a good retrospective album, I'll say that. There's a very good... if you want like a beginner's guide to dance music of like the last 20, 30 years, then this place, I'd argue now Dance Anthems is a decent place to start. Hello everybody, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. The Now Dance journey once again continues, and this time we're looking at this album, the very best of Now Dance 2010. So we are in the year 2010, finally, 10 years ago. That's absolutely insane. And this album followed hot off the heels of our last review, which was Now Dance albums. Again, there's some similarities. We've gone with 3 CDs, and it is in a fat box, which I can show you a little bit later. And even though we've kind of gone with a combination, we've gone with the year is now back, but we've also gone with like the very best of, which is an intriguing combination. I'm surprised they didn't just call it the very best of dance, although we did have an album like that about 5 years ago in 2005, so maybe it was time to do it again. Maybe 5 years was a good time frame. And oddly enough, some of the previous 2000 releases, so say in 2006 you'd have Now Dance 2007, it was the year ahead. Not this one. This one came out in the year 2010, so I'm expecting a lot of 2010 tracks on here. The cover art is very interesting. At first I was trying to decipher what those spheres were, if they were disco balls or meant to represent speakers, and I think it's sort of pick your poison. I think you can really look into it either way. But again, the tube design survives, of course, the tube design. Very Now Dance indeed. Just shimming it on over, as you can see. Fat box style, and in 2010 downloads were starting to pick up, so the fact they still released this on CD, CD still had a decent foothold back at the start of the last decade. And here is the track list. 3 discs, let's have a look. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I really hate it when Now albums do this, where it's in this paragraph style, but it's not in columns. At least in our last review for Now Dance Anthems, it was in 3 blocks like this, but at least they were all columns, so they were easy to read. This is horrendous. It's just a sea of pink and white, and it's awful. Now, I did have a quick skim of this, and yeah, it's a lot of 2010 tracks. I mean, just look at that first CD there. You've got Kylie Minogue, you've got Lady Gaga, you've got Roll Deep. Like, you just look at some of these songs, and a lot of it is 2010. And looking at CD2 as well, they are including more 2010 stuff. I mean, they've got Written in the Stars, one of the biggest hits of the year, for Tiny Temper. I used to love Tiny Temper. Great artist to see live as well. Neo's on here with Beautiful Monster. That was one of my favourite songs from 2010. I think I pre-ordered that single and album, actually. So yeah, they're very much going with what was a big hit in 2010, which, I mean, that is the idea of the album, so they're really meeting up to it. And for good measure down there is CD3. Now, I think 1 or 2 of these tracks, not all of them, are from the year previous, from 2009, which is absolutely fine. I mean, again, maybe some songs weren't included in Now Dance Anthems, which did come out in 2009, so they're making up for it. And maybe they just want a flavour. Maybe there weren't enough dance hits that they thought could qualify for a 3-disc release in 2010. So I don't see any harm in going back. I don't think that's misleading, do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure a lot of the biggest hits of 2009 were still sort of carrying on over into 2010, so is that a problem? No, I don't think so. I think that's perfectly reasonable. So yeah, if you're getting this album, you're getting a huge dollop of 2009 and 2010. So that is the album in terms of the look and the track list and the whole fat box style, but I'm going to crack this open for you now, and we're just going to see what's inside. So here is the first part of the fat box. It's very similar. Well, it's exactly the same as Now Dance Anthems last time. You've got a reflective logo. Don't like reflective stuff. I think everyone knows that by now. But, a lovely pink disc, very much in line with the pink that's on the cover, so at least they've got that. You've got the back of the booklet there saying, win 10 CDs. Just go to this website for your chance to win. Hang on, I thought a few Now reviews ago we were going to be winning up to like 50 CDs. They're skimping out. I mean, I don't know how many people entered that competition. As I say, downloads were starting to become more prevalent. They weren't like fully the norm just yet. That would take another few years. But, you know, do people really want to win 10 CDs? It depends what CDs they are. But, you know, that challenge is long gone. And here you have discs 2 and 3, which probably aptly, you know, have that reflective stuff going on again, but now they are black and white. Black's certainly part of the cover. White, you're borrowing from the logo, but I mean, the primary colours of the front cover were probably pink and black. So yeah, going for white was probably the safest choice they could have done. Again, in terms of disc design, don't like the reflective stuff, but the colours are definitely nice enough to the eye. So, is this album worth it for you? Well, as I said, the vast majority of the tracklist is centred around 2010, quite aptly so, and a little bit of 2009, whereas the last review, Now Dance Anthems, was sort of a compilation of dance hits, say, from the 90s to the early 2000s to the late 2000s. This is very strictly, like, one main year, 2010. If you didn't enjoy the pop/dance music scene in 2010, you ain't gonna like this album, but if you do, it's absolutely great. It's a great mix, actually. I mean, again, I'd argue there's not as many like dance-centric genre titles that didn't cross over. The vast majority of these, from when I looked, did have some sort of mainstream chart success, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to go for that, you want the biggest feel. But I mean, this would signify the end of Now Dance releases for quite a while. The next release wouldn't come for a few years later, which we'll look at next time. But as it goes, this one is a perfect representation, in my view, of just what 2010 was like. In terms of picking it up, it was CD and download at the time. I mean, I paid less than £1 for it on CD, as you've probably guessed. Music Magpie is usually a good place to go, but eBay or flea markets, car boot sales, that'll all do you good too. Just make sure your discs aren't scratched.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another episode of the Now Review. So this is an album that I've wanted to own and review for a very, very long time. It was released in 2012, and it actually covers one of my personal favourite genres, guilty pleasure for a long time, but it is a great genre, and that is, now that's what I call, 90s dance. So the 90s dance genre was rife with absolute bangers, absolute classics, which you're probably going to see on here. As I say, this was released in 2012, and we have a look at the box here. It's quite underwhelming, actually, considering the genre. I don't know what they could have done, but this just seems a bit bland. And apologies if you see any reflections. Hello, I'm waving. There's my hand, because this is in the old fat box style. That's right. They were still using fat box in 2012. No, that's why I call 90s dance there, before they moved on to like the flip style. Here is the track list. Try and show you Everybody's Free, absolute classic. Let Me Be Your Fantasy, The Key, The Secret, Ebenezer Good by the Shaman, excellent track. Free, Show Me Love. Just look at some of these songs on disc 1 and you'll know them from title alone. It's My Life, Dr. Alban, for example. And what else have we got here? Things Can Only Get Better. Missing by Everything But the Girl, brilliant song. Finishing with Believe by Cher, which of course, as we all know, was I think the first main example of autotune in the mainstream. But it actually works quite well for that song, and it still gets played today, 20 years later. CD2, you've got Insomnia by Faithless, one of the biggest bangers ever to be released in, not just 90s dance, but dance music in general. You've got Choose Life from Trainspotting, of course. Bellissima, Passion, Strings for Yasmin, Let Me Show You. Please Don't Go, brilliant song. Turn Around, Get Down. Good Life, Inner City, right at the start of the 90s, Dreamer. Finishing with Born Slippy by Underworld, again mainly used in Trainspotting, but that is an absolute classic track. Highly recommend you listen to that one. And disc 3, you got Jamiroquai, Olive, CeCe Peniston, Free Power, Boom Boom Boom, Let Me Hear You Say Way, or Weho, as that girl says in the old meme. Bombastic by Shaggy, brilliant. Dub Be Good to Me, yes. Things That Make You Go, I like that song. Just look at, I mean, there's so many songs here. Finishing with Atomic 98, which I don't think I've actually heard. I wonder if that's any good. It must be if they put it on this album. Same with the Spice Girls, Spice Up Your Life, but a remix. Very interesting. 2012 release, and we're going to open it up. Now, with these fat boxes, sometimes the discs go flying, so if that happens, I apologise. There's CD1, again, just a bit of a bland design. Literally just the logo, one colour being a bit like sky blue, and that's it. I'll take the booklet out, because we'll have a look at that in a second. Oh, I do miss fat box. Actually, no, I don't miss fat boxes. That's a lie. You got sort of pink for disc 2, and then that sort of bluey green to my eyes. Might look different on camera, but just very simple designs, really. Nothing too special. So we'll put that album to one side, and we'll have a look at the booklet. They don't come with booklets no more. Win a mini hi-fi system? Oh my goodness, just go to nowmusicclub.co.uk/now90sdance for your chance to win. No purchase necessary. Full terms and conditions can be found at www. Couldn't do that myself. Well, I'm not going to win a hi-fi system. I'm about 7 years too late. It's not artist information as such. It's information about, obviously, the companies who published it, the year it came out, all that sort of stuff. I would have wished it was like the mainline series where they do a bit about the artists, you know, in general. That would have been cool. But alas, beggars cannot be choosers. And there is a side view of the logo, and it's sort of creeping back there. That's just a really weird picture that seems very like it was thrown in at the last minute. Oh, what's this? Electrospective, electronic music since 1958. Discover classic electronic music from the 90s and beyond. And you got some albums there from Daft Punk, There's Inner City, David Guetta, the Trainspotting soundtrack. Okay. And there's a little QR code for you to scan. Please visit the website. Wonder if the website's still going. Never heard of Electrospective, but I do have a penchant for electronic music, so I might have to check that out. Put that to one side. So, this album, what is the verdict? I mean, once again, look at the track list. If you are a massive fan of 90s dance as I am, or just dance music in general, the 90s really was sort of a cultural peak for dance music. That was when it was, I guess, at sort of the height of its powers. And this is an absolute must-own for any lover of dance music. Just the plethora of tracks on there. I mean, is it missing some stuff? Probably. I mean, what springs to mind, I don't think Sandstorm's on here by Darude, unless I missed it, but I don't think it is. That's a shame. That was a big hit towards the end of the 90s. There's nothing by the Pet Shop Boys. Now, as you know, I'm a big Pet Shop Boys fan, but the Pet Shop Boys really did pioneer electronic music in the mainstream, especially dance music in the late 80s, but they did have a lot of hits in the 90s as well. You know, where's things like Go West, Can You Forgive Her, Yesterday When I Was Mad, just some of their stuff from like the Very album or the Bilingual album, or even Nightlife, just some Pet Shop Boys would have been good on here. However, where can you get this? Obviously, you can't get it new anymore in shops, you can't get it in supermarkets, HMV, so you're going secondhand. I got my copy from Music Magpie, the online trading and buying website. I got mine for a couple of quid. I think it was about £4, I want to say. But I have seen this go for a lot higher. There was a point in time, as I say, I wanted this for a long, long time. There was a point looking at this, it was like £10 minimum. I don't know why that was. So to get it for a couple of quid is really great. Music Magpie is a great website to use. It does seem to peak and fluctuate in terms of prices. So if you do want your 90s dance fix, I'd suggest going there. But of course, then you're looking at eBay or just chancing it in things like charity shops or places like CEX. But this is an absolutely fantastic edition. I'm glad I now have it in my collection. I will be listening to many of the songs on repeat, I assure you, or the discs on repeat, should I say. Very happy to own it. And yeah, if you like 90s dance music, if you like 90s music, if you're a child of the 90s like I am, then definitely pick up Now That's What I Call 90s Dance. It's one of the best, and I'm going to say it, one of the best spin-off albums Now has ever done. And in a fat box. Moving swiftly on, let's go on to this one. Now That's What I Call 80s Dance. Now, oddly enough, this came out before this version of the Now 80s. This came out in 2013, and straight away with this cover, I love that they've subtly incorporated the old Now motif of the three circles and the sort of yellow lightning bolt here. I just love this whole style, even a little triangle there. And in the background, you've got some funky designs, like more 80s stuff. So I really love this cover, one of my favourites. Here's the spine, using a bit of shade in there on the font. So let's turn this over, and have a look at our 3 CDs. There you go, Ride on Time again, great song. Yes, now some of these do overlap into the Now 80s album, of course, we're talking with the same decade, and some of them were obviously dance songs. Push It, that is such a great 80s dance song, Push It is amazing. Let's flick on back to CD 2. Frankie Goes to Hollywood with Relax, again another fantastic song. Got Blondie and all that sort of stuff. There you go. And CD 3. So yeah, there's again nearly about 60 songs on here, and it has a good mix. Now, 80s dance is a really weird territory because there were a lot of dance songs, dance mixes. Some of them are really good, some of them have aged terribly, I think. So maybe not the greatest Now album there is, but we'll take a look at the packaging first. So no adverts for albums. What I do like is they've basically removed the title, so you get a much better look at all these screens they've got here with all this sort of, well, I'm assuming they're going for like an 80s sort of style. Whether it is or not, some of it looks a bit dubious, but you know, I kind of like this whole motif. And there is CD1, and I love on these older CDs, this is C inlay for details, which will be the things behind the discs. Let's have a look at the other two. So CD2 is in a nice blue, and CD3 is in this nice orange. So there are your 3 discs for Now 80s Dance. Simple, but effective. So favourite songs on here, well, I've already talked about Ride on Time and things like that, but one I did discover was, where is it? There, Colonel Abrams with Trapped. That is such a good dance song, I highly recommend you check that out. So who would I recommend this for? Well, I'd recommend it, yes, if you're a fan of the 80s music scene, but if you specifically are fans of 80s dance, like the kind of dance music that you saw on the track list and that you'll probably know yourself, then yeah, it's a worthy purchase. I was actually quite lucky. I found this in an Oxfam charity shop for £2.99. I believe it's going a bit more in CEX if you find it. I don't think you can buy this in HMV anymore. As I said, this came out in 2013, and now, of course, with each new album that comes out, they discontinue an old one. So if you can find it, it's definitely worth picking up if you're a fan of this specific era and genre. Hey there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another episode of the Now Review. And for this instalment, we're taking it to a more dancey scene, as you can see here, as we take a look at Now That's What I Call Club Hits, and Now That's What I Call Club Hits 2014. These two are quite an interesting type, I think, to look at, because as you can see, they clearly started this with the intention to maybe make it a yearly series, similar to Running or Party, and that didn't happen. And maybe looking at these albums, their track lists and all that sort of stuff, maybe we can suss out why. So I think to start with, we'll take a look at the one that came first, which is, of course, Now That's What I Call Club Hits. So looking at this album, this came out in 2013, and I do quite like the cover. It sort of echoes that club feeling and what a lot of club albums look like. It's very well designed. I do quite like it. Nice colours and that. There's your spine, pretty simple. This copy's a bit battered, but that's alright. The discs all work brilliantly. So here is your track list. People like Martin Garrix, Avicii, Jason Derulo. So as you can see from this disc, a lot of this is very, very recent stuff, especially in 2013. Actually, a lot of these are 2013 now that I look at it. Tiny Temper's Trampolines on here, which you don't often hear much nowadays. I've just lost it. There it is. It was sort of a song, wasn't that brilliant? All the Wrong Places by Example as well. Get Hyper by Droidica. Remember when KSI was on that? How funny, how times have changed. Here's CD2, and again, this is more like 2013 stuff by the looks of it, or like last few years at that point, sort of all modern club. And I get that, you know, they're not advertising this to be classic. Here we go down here, you know, Scream and Shout, Payphone, Don't Stop the Party. So yeah, just looking at all that, the vast majority of this, Sigh Gentleman, was that a club hit really? As you can see, this is basically a snapshot of the last few years in club hits, going from 2013, maybe back to 2010, 2009 at the most, but it's a very modern album. Now before I talk more about the track list, let's have a look inside. So we're going to flip open. There's this. Now this kind of reminds me of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Don't know why, lots of spinning lights, which works for the club stuff. It's a cool design, it's different, maybe not my favourite, but it's a neat design nonetheless. Here you've got an advert for Now 86, which was the most recent at the time, so this must have come out winter 2013. Now USA, which is a neat little album, and Now Movies, which is one of my favourite spin-offs. And looking at disc 2, same sort of style with the purple font, and this is back to light blue. Don't know why they kept 2 discs, one colour and the third different, just seems a bit odd. Those are your discs. Yeah, as I said, really interesting designs to them. Don't know much more I can say about that really, but you know, cool in their own way. So, I mean, what's to say about this album? If you like club hits, you'll like it, but here's the thing for me, guys. Now's definition of what is a club hit can be very loose. I mean, Sigh Gentleman, was that really a club hit? And I don't know, just some of these, they just seem more like pop hits with a bit of a emphasised beat. Although I will say I do really like Lifted by Naughty Boy and Emily Sandé. But yeah, some of these, Die Young and Stronger, was Kelly Clarkson's Stronger really a club hit? So I don't know how honest Now's being with themselves in categorising these, but I mean, if you like sort of dancey or dance vibe music, then you aren't really going to go wrong. This one was a Music Magpie purchase. I think, again, about £2.50, £3. You can find it in second-hand stores, although I've noticed for some reason it's a bit more highly priced. I think I saw it in a CEX once for £6 or £7. Don't know why, but yeah, Music Magpie is probably the way to go for this one. But right, that's now club hits aside, so let's scooch you on over, and we will have a look, if I can get it out, Now that's what I call Club Hits 2014. So now Club Hits 2014. The cover's kind of similar to the first one. They've added the 2014 moniker, honestly. Not much different to say there. There's your spine, typical spine. Tracklist has looked a bit different, sort of this paragraph style, which I think is a bit messier. I kind of prefer them in columns, and I mean, as you can see again, from what you can see, it's just a lot of 2014 hits, obviously, which makes a lot more sense. Again, definition of club hits can be a bit sort of maligned here, like Word Up by Little Mix, was that really in the clubs? I struggle to think so. Looking on the inside, oh, the screen's tinted a bit there, why is that? Sorry about the screen tint. It's blue and yellow disc, a lot more boring than the first one. Out now, you can get Now 88s, this was summer 2014, Now Chilled, nice little album, and Now Drive. Check nowmusic.com for the full range. And discs have different colours to them, which is nice, but again, a bit of a boring design. The reason why I'm sort of skimming through this is because there's not much to say about it, really, not in my opinion. Again, there is some definite club hits on there, but Now's definition of what makes a club hit, I think, can be a bit jaded and a bit biased, almost. It makes me wonder, could they get the rights, or did they just sort of ignore what was a club hit and just go for what they found popular with a dance beat? It's hard to say, really. This one was a CEX purchase, again, just a couple of pounds. Well, it was when I bought it. I don't know if it's gone up or down. You can get this from Music Magpie, all those sorts of retailers as well. But again, I think on the whole, guys, being completely honest, these two albums, if you like your club music, your dance music, then it's worth picking up. If you're just getting into Now, I'd avoid them for the time being. This is not where you should be starting at all. Start with much better spin-offs, in my opinion. But obviously, collectors, you're going to grab it. I mean, for what they're worth, they're fine, but they're not one of the impressive ranges of spin-offs. And I think that's why it's clear it didn't go on. It just sort of didn't offer that much different from the norm. A lot of those hits as well, you can find on either other spin-offs at the time or just other numbered Now albums in the main series. So when most of your tracks are spread across other compilations, you kind of render these ones a tiny bit redundant. Having said that, I do enjoy parts of these, but honestly, only get these if you really want them, or if you really like club music. If you're being selective about what Now albums you pick up, these two, sadly, really aren't worth it.
Hello there everybody, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review. Now, the very best of dance 2014. Or known as the very best of Now Dance, or Now Dance the very best of. You can call it what you want. This was the first Now Dance album in a few years. Yes, I know they'd had the Club Hit series for 2013 and 14, but I don't consider those as Now Dance albums. You could argue 80s dance or 90s dance. Does that fall into it? I'm talking about a mainline Now Dance album. This was the first time in 4 years, the last one being Now the Very Best of Dance 2010. And looking at this cover, wow, I mean, we're keeping with the tube design. That design from the 90s is carried on. Again, I think at this point, both fans and Now themselves knew that tube design was synonymous with Now Dance, and I'm very glad that they decided to keep using it. It's a green logo, which normally I'm not the big fan of green, but I mean, looking around it, this is just a load of fun. Lots of yellows and blues, and it just reminds me of like a very 90s aesthetic, 90s music video aesthetic, and I don't know, I just love it. The colours all work, blue, yellow and green, works wonderfully. So yeah, big fan of this cover art. Before we look at the track list, they abandoned the fat boxes by this point, and they've gone for the old familiar, we know, sort of like open flipbook style. So I'll show you that in a good while, but we're going to flick on over to the track list. Okay, kicking off with CD1, and I mean, thank goodness they're actually in proper columns this time, just makes it much more easier to read. And yeah, you're going with some songs at the time, like Ruse by Magic is on there, Prayer in C, a lot of 2014 stuff. And that 2014 vibe does indeed continue as we go down, like Ellie Goulding, Bastille, Avicii, John Newman, and going to some early 2010 stuff, you know, California Girls, Katy Perry's on there, On the Floor by Jennifer Lopez, you got TikTok by Kesha, which was like 2009-10, so yeah, a nice little mix. This disc finishes with Louder by DJ Fresh, which was a huge hit in 2011, gotta remember that, but yeah, that finishes the first disc where there's 21 tracks. CD2 kicks off with the remix of John Legend's All of Me. Again, All of Me was a huge hit in 2014. So it seems like the starting of each disc is going for the current year, sort of 2014, and then it seems maybe later on down the line things will go back. Miami to Ibiza, Swedish House Mafia, of course, Ellie Goulding again, but this time with one of her earliest hits, Starry Eyed, which was definitely a 2010 release. You got Alex Clare, Wretch 3-2, Examples on here, Change the Way You Kiss Me, great song by a great artist. And this disc finishes with Dizzy Rascal with Bonkers, which was everywhere back in 2009. So yeah, it seems like they're not going as far back as at the minute as you'd expect. I mean, from what I've just skimmed through there, 2008, 2009. I wonder if they'll go back any further for disc 3. Okay, so you got Timber, you got Price Tag, La La La, Fight for This Love. Again, sort of 2009 onward stuff up to 2014, all very modern stuff. It seems that was the demographic they were going for. You got Pass Out by Tiny Temper. Again, a really great song. Hot Right Now, another DJ Fresh, I Need $1. Was that a dance song? I guess you could dance to it. Whistle by Flowrider. You got Bomb Bomb, Super Bass, I Love It, I Could Be the One. Finishing with Disclosure and Sam Smith with Latch. Okay, so overall thoughts on this track list. So as I said, across those 3 discs, what we can see is sort of going from 2008-9 up to the current day in 2014. They're very going for the last 5 years. They want their audience to remember these songs, whether that was from a few years ago or from what they hear on the radio at the time. They're very much going for the current demographic. There are some songs on here I would never consider a dance song, like I Need $1 by Aloe Black. It's a great song, but I wouldn't necessarily put it in the dance category. So this was really the shift for Now Dance when we were going way away from the hardcore stuff like they were doing in the late 90s, early 2000s. We are now firmly sort of back in almost like, the pop territory, or just things that you could dance to rather than dance as a genre, which I think is a real shame. I always liked before how Now had that option for those who were into hardcore dance. Sure, there were always some pop things here and there, but they offered those, those remixes, those niche songs that didn't make the charts. So it's a shame they've delved away from that. There are a few remixes on here, but this is very much a mainstream pop album that's been labelled as dance. But now I think it's time to open this up and see how it's presented on the inside. So opening up the first compartment, you can see we have a yellow disc with that reflective surface. Once again, I hate reflective surfaces on CDs, so annoying. But yeah, that's that. You have this little bit of artwork, which isn't the front cover, but it's a really cool piece of artwork. I love that sort of like almost going into hyperspace sort of thing with the blues and the purples and the whites. It's a really cool image. Just curious as to why they put it, because again, it doesn't represent the cover. And here are the other 2 discs, CD 2 and 3, with a sort of mint green colour and a purple colour. Odd they didn't go for blue, yellow and green, which were arguably the main colours. Purple isn't really a main colour of the cover, but yeah, those are your 3 discs. Again, nice that it's just plain colours, but that reflective surface is just so annoying on discs, man. So, now the very best of Dance 2014. Is it worth your time? And is it worth your money? Well, I mean, it's very easy to find. This one, I think, was a couple of pounds, as it's a bit more recent, 2014, only 6 years ago. But basically, look back from about 2008 to 2014, look at the pop charts at the time and stuff that was, like, more dancey. If you like anything there, you will like this album. I'd argue Now Dance Anthems is still a better album to get into, like, just dance as a whole of, like, the last 20, 30 years. But, I mean, if you're particularly into that late first decade, early second decade, 2000 stuff, then Now the Very Best of Dance does have it for you. Again, I just think it's a great shame they strayed away from, like, the more hardcore dance stuff. I know they had club hits at this point, which is maybe where dance was going, and they had the 80s and 90s dance spin-offs, but the Now Dance brand had always been consistent, and it's a shame that this late in the game they decided to deviate away.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another episode of the Now Review. And for today's instalment, we're looking at one of the dance series. Now has had a myriad of dance albums going all the way back to the mid-80s, which I have done a video on, which you can check out if you like. But this is the most up-to-date dance release, so we're looking at Now That's What I Call Dance Hits. So let's just have a look at this cover, and I must say, I really like this cover. I love how it's all multicoloured, this sort of multicoloured pipes. It sort of gives me a 90s feel, I don't know why, but it just echoes 90s. Same with the text. This sort of font was used on the Now Dance albums from, I'd say, like the mid-90s all the way through the 2000s, so to see it back again is really nice, even though this was released in 2016, I believe. Let's have a look at the spine. I wish the spine had been multicoloured as well, just to, sort of match this wonderful cover, but instead it's just blue and white. They have sort of kept the font, though, of the title, which again is a nice touch. So let's have a look at the all-important track list. So CD1, and you'll notice that a lot of these are modern songs, 2016, 2015, all that sort of stuff. This was 2016? Yes, it was. That's CD1. Let's have a look at CD2. So you got Jason Derulo, Zayn, Justin Bieber. So again, CD2 is a lot of modern songs, very modern stuff indeed. And CD3, you have more modern songs. This is very much a 2016, 15, 14, 2010s album. Nothing that much old on here. That's the track list. It's not the most inspiring and I'm a bit disappointed with it, to be honest. But I'll talk more about the track list later. Let's have a look inside. What's this say? Oh, just follow us all on our social medias. And thank you to Nick Chapman who designed it. You done good, Nick. And I like this. It's the same pipes, but it's not just this overall image splashed on. It's different colour tones that really work well. Really nice design. Now with the discs, I like the fact they've kept the font, but do we need the splatter? Is the splatter... Well, the splatter is on the front, but to me that doesn't really communicate dance hits. I don't know what other motif you could have used. Maybe like a spark or a bang, but no, paint splatter just seems a little odd to me. But anyway, let's have a look at disc 2 and 3. That green and blue doesn't really work, I don't like that. And blue and yellow works better. But again, my overall gripe with this disc design is why not have a more elaborate motif rather than just paint splatters? I don't know why, baffles me a bit. But yeah, this track list, guys, this album sadly suffers from the syndrome of a lot of these songs are available across 2 or 3 or 4 numbered now, so if you got those, you don't really need this unless you're like me and you like to collect them. But there is a silver lining, even though this track list is sort of really uninspired and not that good. Can you dance to all of these? That's my debate. There are several more dance albums you can get. I think a few years before this, 2014 maybe, I think they released the very best of dance, which at least to my knowledge had a broader track list. You have all the dance albums for individual years, spanning from, well, I don't know, as I said, the mid-80s all the way through the 2000s. So I'd say if you're into your dance music, like a lot of people are, maybe don't get this album, even though it's it's the newest one. Some HMVs still sell it. You can get it off Music Magpie like I did for about £3. It's one of the cheaper ones to get. But in terms of the track list, if you really want, I don't know what you say, if you want a variety of dance songs, then you need to get other albums. Granted, if you just want modern 2015-16 dance songs that haven't been remixed, notice there's hardly any remixes on here, then this is fine. This is more than perfect, but I just think nowadays people would just use their Spotifys, their iTunes. Considering CDs as a medium is dying out, you've got to make a lot of incentive for people to buy your CDs, and for me, aside from the collector's market of now, this one just doesn't cut the mustard for me, I'm afraid. I'm sorry this now review's quite short, but again, it's one of these albums you can't say that much about it because it just echoes what the chart stuff is doing, what the numbered nows are doing. There's no classic dance songs, there's no real remixes that didn't already break the chart. That was what I always liked about the dance albums, the chance to hear songs that necessarily weren't on the main pop chart or that had been remixed. And sadly with this album, that vision has sort of been lost. So I'd highly recommend some of the other Now Dance albums, you should check those out. This is mainly only for collectors and fans of exclusively modern music. But that's...
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to a new instalment of the Now Review. I know it's been a while, but here we are to take a look at the most recent release in the Now series, which is Now 100 Hits, Dance. So, we're no stranger to dance albums on this channel. In fact, we were partway through a Now Dance marathon when it was named after the year. And that will continue, don't worry. But this is technically the latest installment in the dance series, if you like. There hasn't been a dance album in quite some years now, I think. I think it's about 5 or 6 years, if memory serves me well, or it might be even less than that. But let's take a look at this cover. As you can see, you've got some great iconography here. Lots of bright lights, like almost shiny floor. It looks like a disco ball, but it probably isn't. It looks like a club is what I'm trying to say. I love how the dark blues contrast well with like this red shine here, and it's the silver logo. It looks very dance. It looks like a very clubby dance place of the 1990s, to me personally. But I love this cover and I love this title. And as you noticed, it's 5 CDs. But now I think we need to look at the all-important track list. So we will look at the track list more in depth when I open it up. You might be able to see some titles there. As you can tell, it's 100 songs, as is the 100 Hit series, across 5 discs, about 20 tracks to each disc or thereabouts. I've never liked this paragraph style here, how they list them. I always preferred the column way they used to list the tracks, but I get it. There's 100 songs. To do it like wide or width ways is probably not the best way to do it. But yeah, there is your 100 tracks, and we will open it up and look at each disc in detail. Okay, so CD 1, and we're kicking it off with Ride on Time, Pump Up the Jam, the theme from S Express. Rhythm is a Dancer. this channel's theme, of course. You can just tell by reading down here, there's a lot of songs from like the late 80s, early 1990s, which makes sense because that was such a golden era for dance music. I think it's when dance music really started to come into its own, really started to hit the mainstream as well, really become popular with the masses. And there's some great tracks on here, apart from what was those top 4. Gonna Make You Sweat, brilliant. Renegade Master, of course. Finally, Dreamer, Push the Feeling On, and just the bottom half of the track here, finishing off with Everybody's Free to Feel Good by Rosala, which again is a big iconic classic song from the 1990s. So I'm really glad that Disc 1 actually honours the past history of dance music. I was really worried it was going to be 100 modern dance songs, but I really like that they've started with the late 80s, and I'm assuming they're going to work their way forwards. And remember, kids, follow them on their social media because they want you to do that. I do, to be fair, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I don't on Snapchat because I'm not like 10. Okay, CD2 kicking off with Born Slippy, which is a great song. It was used in the film Trainspotting. Really heavy 90s dance song. You got Believe by Cher, the most famous mainstream song that was, well, credited with bringing in the auto-tune feature into the mainstream. You got the Rockefeller Skank, Hey Boy, Hey Girl, Bellissima, Heaven even, Insomnia, Children. Again, a lot of big songs now from like the mid to late 90s straying into the early 2000s. I do like this approach to this version of Now Dance, just how we're sort of moving through the history of dance, really. I think it's good to honour. I like how it isn't all mixed up, so say on this disc or even CD1 you haven't got like an 80s song mixed with a song from 2020. It's nice and chronological in order. Show Me Love there, track 13, that's another huge big track from the day. From Paris to Berlin by Infernal, the one under it, is one of my favourite dance songs ever. I don't care what anyone says, it's wonderfully cheesy, but it's so very dance. And what finishes this disc is York with On the Beach. I must admit, personally I'm not that familiar with that one, but I'm sure it must be iconic enough if it's on here. Okay, now we've got CD3 with Call On Me by Eric Prydz, big song. Don't Call Me Baby, Things Can Only Get Better. Yeah, so just looking at these songs now, we're really moving into the 2000s era. You got stuff from the end of the first decade of the 2000s, like In For The Kill by LaRue, big song. TikTok by Kesha, you can dance to it. I wouldn't call it like a dance genre song. Murder on the Dance Floor, great song by Sophie Ellis-Bextor there. Of course, you've got to have things like Bonkers and Milkshake, Satisfaction, yep, glad that's on there. Gotta Get Through This, yep, Baby Cakes. By Baby Cakes, as if that's on it. Finishing with Another Chance by Roger Sanchez, and that's disc 3. So yeah, so disc 1 has been like, you know, the late 80s, early 90s. Disc 2 is pretty much the 1990s, early 2000s, and this is now some 90s tracks in there, but mainly into the 2000s now. And wasting no time at all for CD4, we're moving straight into the 2010s with Calvin Harris and Dua Lipa with One Kiss. That was a big hit in 2018. Summertime Sadness, Dynamite by Tayo Cruz. That was 2009. Something Just Like This, Don't You Worry Child, I Took a Pill in Ibiza. Those of you who are a bit younger or grew up with this stuff, I guess like I did to an extent, you'll know a lot more of these songs. We're really into like the modern day now. There's the bottom half of disc 4, finishing off with Rudimental and John Newman, Feel the Love, banging song that came out in 2012. I loved it. Change the Way You Kiss Me, track 16 by Example, one of my favourite Example songs. I saw him live, that was a great show. I do actually like it, you know, how we are moving through the history. I think it gives you a bit of something for everyone, don't you think? Okay, and CD5, still in the 2010s, starting with Wake Me Up by Avicii, may he rest peacefully. Going through there, you'll notice again a lot of like iconic songs of the last 10 years. And in the bottom half, you got some stuff from 2020, such as Head and Heart, Breaking Me, and Savage Love, which is what finishes this 100-track dance album. And so there is a look at the 5 slots that contain the disc, featuring the TARDIS tin, which is propping this album up. So yeah, I mean, my thoughts on it, again, I like the history aspect, how you start with the late 80s moving through to the modern day, because I think one of the biggest problem with the dance albums of the past, not the year ones because they're specific, but like the general, now that's what I call dance or dance hits albums, I think sometimes they mix it up. So say on CD1 they'll have a song from the 80s, then immediately after a song from like the modern day, and I think it just doesn't gel well because dance music changes so much through history, it's so vibrantly different. So I feel in that sense it's good to have it spaced out like this. So yeah, just to reiterate again, CD1 is sort of late 80s, early 90s. CD2 is the 1990s in general, early 2000s. CD3 is a bit of late 90s, but mainly with the 2000s in it. CD4 is getting into the 2010s with some late 2000s stuff potted in. And CD5 is very much the last 10 years in dance music. One thing I noticed but hadn't mentioned is this is one of like the flaps as you open it up. which is basically the front cover but without the Now logo. I do like that they do this with their releases just because you get to see what it looks like, and I think this looks great. If this is like a club, I really want to be there. It's a really, really cool design, really good use of colour gelling and all that sort of stuff. So big props to the Now team for designing that cover. So in a nutshell, that is Now 100 Hits Dance. Now for the recommendations, who is this for? Well, I think if you like dance music, it's pretty much a no-brainer. You should definitely pick this up because this is a whole history of dance of the last 30 years. There's 100 songs on it for one. Remember, past like dance compilations of this nature from Now have maybe topped out at about 60 tracks, so you're getting like a bonus 40 tracks here. You get a wide variety of songs, and for only like 12 or 13 pounds, to me, that's a pretty good deal. On the price, yeah, you can get it from like all the recent places, HMV or the supermarkets, for between 11 and 13 pounds, depending on where you go. It eventually will come down, no doubt, in HMV to their 2 albums for £15 range, which is always a very good deal. So if you're not urgently wanting to get this, you can always wait a little bit. But if you want it now, it is readily available. But fair to say, if you're not really a fan of dance music, you take a look at this track list, it's not selling you, then I'd probably stay away from this one. A massive thank you to our producer and director patrons for your support towards us here at AMTV. You just help keep us going, and that's massively appreciated. And that does bring us to the end of another evening here on AMTV. We hope you enjoyed the programme, and we hope to see you next time. Good night.